We are here with Steve Bennett from Sportscasters Podcast. Thank you for joining me, Steve, all the way from North
Tonawanda. Yeah.
North Tonawanda.
But Buffalo. We say Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me today. Yep. Just gave you a tour of the Right Choice Bullpen.
It's beautiful. You know, you are actually further south than I am.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, because usually when we'll go to Canada, usually we always cross Lewiston or Rainbow because normally we're headed north. And this was the one time where we had to go to Peace Bridge because you're actually west of us.
Right.
And, but further south.
Southwest up in Canada.
Yeah.
I know, it's wild. We live like right at one of or most southern points in Canada. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of U.S. north of us. Yeah, it's wild.
They have that in Detroit too, right? With Windsor. There's certain parts of Detroit and Windsor that are either further north or further south, depending where you are.
Yeah.
But I've been coming to Canada literally since I was born.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I always say this, but it was not unusual to cross an international border on a Tuesday because we like the Chinese food better here. We would just...
I've heard this before, and I think we chatted about this.
You'd be sitting around. What are we going to do for dinner? Oh, Chinese. Okay, where do you want to go? Oh, Canada.
That's hilarious. I've never had Chinese food before in the States to know why.
It's not great. I mean, there are the gems, where everything takes 5-10 minutes. Those places,
right?
No matter what you order, you call and they're like 5-10 minutes. You go pick it up,
right? There's
some of those greaseball places where you kind of just go in, get your food, and go out, or you won't want to eat it. You got to keep,
right?
But it's great. But there's not a lot of great sit down It's not.
Yeah,
It's better here. It's just always better here.
Is it the same foods or do they serve different foods?
I think it's the same. I think it's just a better quality, just a better...
Interesting.
I think in the United States, the Chinese food is either a buffet, which usually stinks.
Right.
Right. It's, they're not giving you anything of quality at a buffet.
Yeah.
Or it's these storefront places where it's takeout.
Interesting.
There's not a lot of just like home style. Like here you go, the waitress comes up. We got a lot of hibachi type places or...
The food in the States is so good. I'm surprised that we have something that's better.
One thing. And I would always say when I would go to... Because I played hockey as a kid, and my brother then took it to another level. So I had 2 generations of 20 years. I came here every weekend, right?
Really?
And I would always say that the meat here, it all tastes like sausage to me.
Yeah?
It's got to be just the way you guys grow it or serve it.
Interesting.
But then you go to Disney and I was like, you got to have the Montreal Steakhouse. And I'd be like, I'm in Montreal and I can't find a good steakhouse, but I'm sure there is one. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Montreal's rough for a foreigner.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Why? The language? Like French or?
There's that. And then they don't want you there.
Really?
I
could see that. They got a little bit of attitude out there.
I'm a big Pearl Jam guy.
Yeah.
So I've been to 86 Pearl Jam shows.
Oh, wow.
So I went to one in Montreal. This was in 2000. And Pearl Jam has always been a, sellout kind of a band, right? But in 2000, it's closer to the peak, say, than now. Although now it might be harder, arguably, to get tickets because of bots and all those kinds of things. But
right.
The show was sold out. And we had good seats, and we had brought an extra friend, and we had known, because this is towards the end of the tour, that around this time you go to the box office, they're going to have some holds that aren't holds anymore,
right?
And you'd be able to get a seat. We knew this, right?
Smart.
So we go down, we go in, and we buy a ticket, and it's even better than the tickets we have. And we come back upstairs, and we're standing outside. It was the Molson Center. Then I know it's something different now.
Right.
We're standing outside the Molson Center, and we see some people buying tickets, and it's just like a group, and it doesn't even occur to me. I'm just like, they have face value tickets, right? So the people walk away, and these dudes, they chased us into the arena.
They were not happy.
And the guy on the escalator is like, dude, those guys, you don't F with those guys. You know what I mean?
That's their livelihood.
Broke up the wrong sale. I was 20. I didn't know, and then. I remember that after the show, we're trying to, get to the hotel. And back then, it's like you leave your house with a stack full of different MapQuest directions.
Oh, yeah.
It's like we got from home to the venue, from the venue to the hotel, from the hotel to Burger King.
That's awesome.
I always say like I survived those trips, especially the 2000 tour, on just naivety and ignorance. That was like my greatest asset.
Yeah.
Because if I would have ever thought about what I was doing,
yeah, it would have been different.
I might not have done it.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
And
I've never done that before, except maybe once get tickets from box office day of. So that happens. That's a good little technique to go.
I say like even now, I almost never buy tickets in advance. Like I'm a wait. Especially now they do the airplane. Tickets are always the most expensive the day they go on sale.
Interesting.
Because all the bots buy them up now.
Interesting.
You know, you probably not like. I was talking to a buddy who tried to get tickets to see Fish at the Spear in Vegas, and he was in 30,000th in line in the virtual queue.
30,000. So when you go day of an event, when's the best time to go? Like right at
the latest. But you gotta get a
right
feel for the band
starts.
too. Like so with Pro Jam, I know. Okay, I've been to 86 shows. I've been a fan since 1991. Kind of know how they operate. So like during the stadium shows, I know they're going to get there a day or two before, set up. Then they're going to probably release the day before the day of because they'll be set up. So they're always going to know what's release.
Right.
You know, when you're doing a tour in an arena and you're going from one to the next, that's when it's more day of. The stadium ones are more day before. But so you got to get a feel of that kind of thing. But I still think in general, like probably every show I've been to in the last 10 years. And now I'm not afraid to go alone. It's more difficult when you're trying to get four people together.
Yeah, one ticket.
You know, I usually just go down and when doors are opening, especially with these like legacy acts and things like that, people buy these tickets so far in advance. People, they can't make it then. They die. They move away. They have something else going that night. Their kids are doing, there's always someone selling a ticket.
Does that work for sports too?
I think it does.
Huh. I'll have to try this.
I always wait. I'm a wait guy. Because someone will always call me. They'll be like, we want to go to this show, but it's $600. And I'm like, well, it's $600 today.
Yeah.
When's the show? Oh, it's in 9 months. I'm like, well, just wait and see what happens. Like Taylor Swift is playing there's like 6 shows in the Skydome. And my wife and my daughter, they want to go.
Yikes.
And you look at the prices now, they're outrageous. But I'm like, the demand is, even though she's a superstar.
Yeah.
And she's the number one act, I don't think 6 shows in the Skydome, I think the demand is going to come down.
Yeah, you think? So what are you going to wait till soon before? Or are you going to just show up?
Well, here's the thing with that culture too. Again, like people go to every show and are fine with not getting in and sitting around and trading bracelets and staring at the building.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand, but that apparently happens at every venue. They just show up and hang out. That's just as good.
Right.
And a lot cheaper, I guess, you know.
Definitely cheaper.
And but so that's a different animal. Like, you know, Paul McCartney, different animal. You know, there's some things you gotta get in the ring early, start fighting the fight, I'm sure. But with that specific one, 6 shows in the Skydome, a lot of tickets every night.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
I know it's a big city, and I know you're kind of serving a big area when you consider Buffalo and probably all the way to Detroit.
Yeah.
You know, probably all the way to Montreal. It's a lot of people are going to be descending on Toronto, but
when is that one?
I think it's in the Thanksgiving time.
Gotcha.
I think, but
let's talk a little bit about your stuff.
Yeah.
So you've been doing a sports podcast since
2011.
2011.
Yep.
So 12 years. Like when we first started talking, you're one of the OG.
I am.
Because like I've been splashing around with podcasts a little bit for a couple of years here and there, but you've been OGing for a long time.
When I first got into podcasts, I remember I was listening to the Bill Simmons. It was called the Bill Simmons Report. This is when he was a writer for Page 2 on ESPN.com. And you would have to listen. You'd have to go to ESPN.com, go to Page 2, and somewhere on the page they'd have a little box, like a real audio player that you could click, and that's how you listened. You know, and then started to get more specific. But I grew up in Buffalo, you know, senior year of high school. I knew I was only high school good at hockey.
Right.
And I went to Syracuse for college. Mm-hmm. And again, the timing is everything, right? In 98, when I was a senior in high school, Syracuse was way further from Buffalo than it is now. It's like even to call home, I needed like a calling card. Like it was a long distance phone call.
That's hilarious. That's so funny.
The highway was still 55 it's still, I can't drive 55, Sammy Hagar time. It wasn't 65 yet on the highway.
Right.
Every time my dad took me to school in Syracuse, he got a speeding ticket.
Really?
Like every time they would get him.
Clockwork.
And he gets so pissed,
That's hilarious.
It's like, well, Dad,
slow
it's
down.
like trip 20. Like, that they're, well, whatever. So I spent about a year there, and then I knew I had to get closer to home. So I went to Fredonia, and my senior year there, it was the end of the first semester. This is December time. And we had something called Dead Week. And you would, classes would be done, but you had a week where you could, teachers couldn't have due dates. It was open to like study for finals or finish projects, whatever. And I had nothing. I had the whole week.
Nice.
I'm like, I'm just gonna play Madden all week.
Nice.
I had one thing. I turned it in Monday morning. I came home, told my roommate, I'm like, well, I'm good till I got 9 days off, till my first final or whatever. And I said, but I got a little bit of a stomach ache. So the first thing I'm going to do is nap number one. I think I'm going to take like 40 naps on this week and, play Madden.
It sounds like a great week.
Yeah, it was going to be.
Yeah.
And then I woke up from the nap and I'm like, man, this stomach ache is a bad stomach ache.
Right.
And then an hour later, I was
Did you have some American Chinese?
Yeah, I did. I did. I was laying on the floor in my college bathroom, looking around thinking like, when was the last time we cleaned this floor?
That's hilarious.
I'm like laying under the toilet seat, like thinking like, man,
it's dirty down
because it's
there.
a gross guy's college apartment, right?
Yeah.
So my buddy's girlfriend her mom was a nurse. So she called and told her what was going on. She's like, you should go to the hospital. All right. So went to the hospital. Monday night football was the Rams and the Browns.
Wow, you have a good memory.
Remember that specifically. And now we're in Dunkirk, New York, right? Sloan Kettering is not located in Dunkirk, New York, right? Like this is not, the best hospital in the United States, right?
Right.
So I go to the waiting room and I'm peeing pen, and I tell the lady checking me in, I'm like, I don't think I can like wait in the wait. She's like, no, come on. So she takes me to the back and a young doctor comes in, which I later find out he's like been a doctor 6 minutes. And he takes a look at me, gives me a little poke in the belly. He's like, yeah, you need to get your appendix out. I was like, okay. He's like, we'll do it tomorrow. I'm like, tomorrow? I'm like, what am I going to do between now and tomorrow?
Right.
He's like, don't worry. He's like, I got something. Now, at this point in my life, believe it or not, I have never been drunk. I've never had any narcotics of any kind. I was a serious athlete, and as an older brother, I took that stuff. I took that seriously. I wanted to set a good example for my brothers, whatever. So I didn't get into those things. I had my own vices, but they weren't drugs or alcohol, right? They were.
What were they?
Well, women and.
Oh yeah, gotcha.
But I was much more handsome back then. You know what I mean? I was like 150 pounds.
I like it.
I thought I was good looking.
You're doing just fine.
Yeah, I was doing my thing.
Yeah.
But the guy goes, he's like, I'll give you something. So they take me up to the room, and the nurse is like, I gotta call the doctor. She's like, this is a lot of drugs. I gotta make sure he meant to give you this much drugs.
Okay.
I was like, all right. And she comes back. She's like, yeah, that's what he meant. She's like, but it's so much. I'm not gonna just push it in. I'm gonna do it over 5 minutes.
Okay.
So I was like, all right. So she puts the first little bit in. And within seconds, I'm like talking to her about why am I floating above the bed?
This was a needle injection.
It was, they put the IV through the IV.
Right.
So then I never saw her leave. So like it put me out before the 5 minutes were up.
Wow.
And the next thing I heard was the surgeon screaming, does anyone know what emergency appendectomy is? Why do I live across the street from this place if nobody can call me when we have an emergency? He's screaming, right?
Really?
F-bombs. I hear him. He's outside the door.
How old were you again?
22.
Okay. Wow.
And I hear him. He's screaming. Opens the door. Hello, Stephen. How are you? Where's your mother? And I'm like, I'm not sure. I had left a message the night before, but I was out.
Yeah, you're like, I just woke up from this coma.
I've been out for whatever he gave me since I got here.
Right.
And he's like, okay, well, so he called her, and I heard him say to her, he has to have surgery. And she said, well, he's 22 years old. Give him the surgery then. I'm on my way. She was on her way.
Right.
She had gotten the message and was coming. So by the time they got it out, the moral, it had ruptured.
Oh,
right.
Wow.
Like they didn't get it out in time.
Wow.
And luckily I didn't die from it because you can.
Yeah.
But it was the reason it was poisoned. And so then they took samples. Why is this? Did this happen? And it's because I had Crohn's disease, which I didn't know until that minute.
Right. What is Crohn's?
So there's sort of a debate: is it an autoimmune disease or not? Some people say yes, some people say no. But it's an intestinal disease. I have it really low. It can be kind of anywhere. Like my Crohn's is lower than normal, which doctors are always interested in. And when he got it out, I had 2 infections. So I had one in the back and one in the front, and he was draining them. So I was in the hospital for a bit. And he took the drain in the back out because he thought he drained it. And then he sent me home with the one in the front because it was Christmas by then. So I think I got out like December 21st.
Wow.
And because I said I want to go home for Christmas. I don't want to.
Be here.
So he's like, all right. So when I got home, I got really sick because the infection in the back was still there. But got through it or whatever. And then eventually they called Uncle in Fredonia. They're like, we got to get you to Buffalo.
Got to get you.
We got to get you. So he called the head surgeon at Buffalo General who had just moved there from Utah. And I was like one of his first patients in Buffalo. This guy named Dr. Merrill Dayton, who was like brilliant. This was like going from getting a burger at Burger King to getting a steak, at whatever the best. I mean, you could just tell the difference, right? And God bless this Dr. Asker was his name. He did everything he could for me.
New guy.
But that was the
Gotcha.
emergency room guy.
Gotcha.
But he had limited. He didn't have Buffalo. He wasn't working in Buffalo General Hospital, right? He was working with less resources and less collaboration. He did everything he could, and I didn't want to go, but he said you have to go, and so I had my first bowel reconstruction then. So I had 17. What he did to fix me is he's like, what happened is it made a track and it infected all this. We got to cut that out and then we'll reattach it.
Right.
He took my cecum out and I was off. I was on my way. Went back to school the next year, finished up, graduated, walked across the stage, shook the guy's hand, said, I almost died here, but I made it. The president of the college, he's like, well, I'm glad you didn't die. I'm like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I went to work. I was working in the Buffalo Public Schools.
I gotta pause one thing.
Yeah.
Interesting, because I don't know a lot about American healthcare.
Yeah.
That surgery, those surgeries, you got to pay for that, or how?
So I was, as a student, still able to be on my dad's health. My dad worked for Pepsi.
Nice.
So my dad worked for a big company.
Had some benefits.
And he had good benefits.
Yeah.
And because I was a student, I was all right to be at till 25. You can be on. That's generally the rule of thumb.
Yeah.
If you're
over
a full-time
here too.
student, you can be on your parents'.
Yeah.
So I was good with that. There was some bills that started coming. And when we told Dr. Asker about that, those bills disappeared because they didn't want me to sue.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
If I was litigious, I probably could have made a stink. But to me, they did the best they could.
That's good.
I love Dr. Asker. I would have never wanted to face him in court or say he did everything. That wasn't in me. Like, I'm not that kind of guy. You know?
That's good.
So I wanted to go back to college. I wanted it to be over. I didn't want to worry about that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
And I was good. That was 2003 into 2004. And I was good till 2014.
Yeah.
And well, that's not true. I was good till about 2009, 2010. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of crashed again. And in 2011, the doctor told me, like, you can't work full time right now. Like, we have to get you onto Social Security disability insurance because you can't go to work every day. Like, you're not
can't
gonna
push your body like that.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
So I got home and I said, well, I need to do something. And that's when I created the Sportscasters, in that period, early 2011. This is another like random sports marker, but Cam Newton, when he was at Auburn, they played the national championship game against Oregon, and the first podcast went up the next day.
No way.
So it's because January is when they play the national championship or whatever. And so then the show started, and then 2013, I had a bowel reconstruction, so it stopped. Then 2019, I had one, stopped, and then 2022. So I've had 04, 13, 19, and 22 for reconstructions.
Wow.
And then I also had, I had a hiatal hernia that I had fixed, because it just happened from the whatever it's a natural natural that happens to your body when you go through this. I've had a couple surgical hernias that I need repaired. I had ileostomy, temporary ileostomy. So
I don't know what that is.
It's a bag.
Oh, gotcha.
You know what I mean? I had a bag in 19 I had one for about 130 days. So then you got to get surgery to get it reversed. And that's like having another reconstruction, really, is they're putting you back together.
You've been through the ringer, right?
And then I had a bag in 22 as well. So, and in between all this, I have, done my best to grow the show and to make the show. Like if we got into a thing and you said, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? The first weakness I would tell you is I struggle with consistency.
Which is the number one most important thing.
But it's hard for me because it's hard to be consistent when in 2022, all of a sudden you need 7 months off.
Yeah.
And the worst part about it is like, and you probably know how this goes, right? There's waves. Something will happen.
Oh, yeah.
And you're hot.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's always when I get sick.
Oh, no.
Like I got, Sports Illustrated wrote an article, John Wertheim, like you wouldn't, right now, there's no one else you would pick at SI to write about you than him, right? And for whatever reason, he had been on the show. He didn't know me. He didn't pull it out of thin air, but he thought I had a story to tell, and he wrote about it for SI. And, that was in May of 2021. I had like 5 months to build on that, and then I'm out for 7 months. So, we can talk about them. There's been a few things along the way where I have these peaks.
Yeah.
And it is that consistency part that hurts me. And also, if we're talking about another weakness, I'm not a great promoter. I feel awkward promoting myself.
Mm-hmm. I understand that.
And I fight that. I try to get better at that, but that's how it hurt me as well. But really, it's just been about, like, I've had big opportunities. Slate.com, they were creating they're basically making their own Patreon for their own podcasts, right?
Interesting.
They wanted to charge the way Patreon does, set up tiers like that, but do it in-house, not share a Patreon. Mm-hmm. And there's the sports podcast on Slate, and I'd had one of the guys on. He knew about the show. Mm-hmm. And they came to me and they said, your show is the right size and they're honest. They're like, if something goes wrong, we're pissing off your customers, not ours. Right? They wanted to use my show.
Right.
They wanted me to come over to Slate, that offering me commercials all across their networks and a little, revenue sharing, obviously, on the. And I thought about, this is 2019. I'm thinking about it. I was talking to Tammy about it. And I was like, I'm telling them no. And she's like, why are you telling them no? I'm like, I don't want to take anyone's money. I was like, if anything happens to me right now and people's payments are coming in and I'm laying in a hospital bed trying to think, how am I going to get this money back to them? Or
from the customers,
how am I going to get
listeners?
Like, I don't want to take anyone's money. And I said no to them. They understood. Sure enough, that was then my 2019 battle happened. Yeah, and I think in the back of my head, I knew that was coming already.
Could feel it.
Because I know ahead of time. I don't wake up one day and, oh man, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I feel it coming.
Yeah.
And I think I knew, maybe more than I wanted to admit at that moment.
Right.
But I knew, because this is the first time I had a child through that. So my daughter was 3 at the time.
Right.
So I had never had, because that's a whole nother level, like when you're fighting an illness. And again, I would have never complained. Every time I went in the hospital, I walked out.
Nice.
And I'm only talking about this because it's an interview and maybe someone might think it's interesting. But
it is.
It's the hardest thing, though, is when you have a daughter or a child and you're hurting. They're hurt because you're hurt.
Yeah.
I
can't imagine
that's
what
the
that's
one
like.
thing you can't. I can't do anything about that. Like in 2019, she was 3 years old, and I think my initial hospital stay, it was at least 40 days or something like that.
Wow.
And because we waited around trying to avoid the surgery for a couple of weeks, we probably should have just done it. Mm-hmm. But you only have so much colon, right? You only have so much intestine. So they do try before they take 17 centimeters out, see if is there another way.
Right.
But when I got home, she wouldn't even go to my mother-in-law's. She had like separation anxiety. I mean, kids are resilient. She got over it, but it's hard to see that. You know what I mean? That was hard. And then in 2022, now I know how she was in 2019. So that's even worse. It's like,
that's tough.
But that's the only thing I've ever everything else I roll with it. A
little bit with the Crohn's. Yeah. Is it something that's curable?
So there's no cure right now, but there is remission. You would probably say from 2003 to somewhere in 2010, 11, I was in remission.
Gotcha.
And then I've probably had other periods of remission. There is medicine called biologics. So one's called Remicade. I was on that. It failed. But that's okay. There's a lot of them, and there is a trial and error to finding the biologic that works best for you.
Right.
And right now I'm on one called Humira. And if you go on Reddit and you're in the Crohn's group, which I wouldn't recommend, it's a lot of angry and upset and sad people in there, but
yeah,
whatever. Sometimes you want to read what everyone else is going through. But there are people, they'll start a biologic and it's a miracle. They'll be they get remission, and my surgeon says all the time, I have Crohn's patients. I do a surgery on them and never see them again.
Wow.
Then I have some, I do a surgery, I see them in 2 years or 3 years, whatever it was in my case, right? And usually it's because they find a biologic that...
How long does it take to know if it's working?
Well, so I'm 1 year into Humira. And it's not a miracle, but there's been clear improvements thanks to Humira.
Nice.
I haven't been to the hospital since I left for the reversal surgery. I had the reversal surgery, got the bag off, was there for a week after whatever surgery, went home, and I haven't been back. Usually you have flares, you have to go. It's almost, I always say it's like a Crohn's oil change. You get a flare, you need to go, and what they do. They they give you IV steroids, IV pain meds. They give you, nothing in or out of your mouth. They right. back you off. Everything kind of cools off, and you go, you're all right. You feel great for a while. I haven't had anything like that. So it's taken the edges off. I was on a lot of pain meds at home for a bit, almost to nothing now.
Wow.
If some days I don't take anything.
Amazing.
But I still have swelling. I still have symptoms. So it's not a miracle, but I don't really need a miracle, right? If you could just keep me from having to have 17 centimeters of my colon taken out for 3 years, I would sign up for that right now.
Because you only got, like you said, so much.
And it goes like this. And he said he just tied off the first, if you look at it like a net, right?
Right.
He just tied off the first goalpost. And if you believe in things like God or whatever, he did say to me, I don't know why, and no one could know why, but you have an abnormal amount. I have more than you're supposed to have. So,
thank you.
If there's some higher power out there looking out for me, I don't know if there is or isn't, but if there is, they hooked me up there because it's like this. I have a grandma who's very religious, Italian Catholic grandmother.
Yeah, my mom too.
Yeah, and she's like, God never give you more than you can handle. So he did give you Crohn's, but he made sure you had enough colon to take out. He hooked me up or whatever.
Yeah.
But so I started the show, and I had my first guest was Jeff Passan, who is now a huge star at ESPN.
Nice.
He's like the Adam Schefter of baseball at ESPN.
Yeah, all these names. I'm not so in. But even before, I don't want to lose track of this, but I'm a little bit.
You want,
Yeah, you mentioned consistency. How often are you posting, or what's
So I have settled into essentially an every other week.
Yeah. What day and time?
Usually for Friday commute. I'll put it up in the middle of the night Thursday, so it's there in the morning.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Now that isn't as important as it was pre-pandemic, but pre-pandemic, a lot of people listen driving into work, things. So I always wanted to get it up So who, for the morning commute,
Friday morning commute,
so that's usually my goal. And I got about, so if you do it every other week, that means you want to get about 26 a year.
Yeah.
And I got close to that last year.
Yeah.
I think I had 24 or something like that.
Nice.
Consistency
is number one.
It's number one.
Number one. This is what I tell everybody that I try and encourage with content.
Yeah.
Consistency.
It's the number one thing.
It's the easiest and hardest thing to do.
Because once people want to make a habit of you being there with them.
Yeah.
And as soon as you give them a reason to break that habit, they're off to something else.
It's tough.
And it's definitely been hard for me. Because sometimes I have to go dark for 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a side project called the 24-inch podcast. It's strictly for fun. Mm-hmm. It's about Hulk Hogan, the 24-inch pythons.
I love
the 24-inch podcast. It's just a nostalgia play. Me and this guy from Jersey do it. My daughter does it with us a lot. She loves 80s wrestling.
That's amazing. Did you watch Royal Rumble this weekend?
I watched a little bit, yeah. I watched the last few minutes, of the men's Rumble.
Yeah.
See, a lot of times what will happen, like when WrestleMania comes this year, I'll tell my daughter, I'm like, WrestleMania's today. She's like, you want to watch WrestleMania 3? Yeah, and we watch WrestleMania 3 instead. We just love 80s and 90s wrestling more. So, but I like to know, even when I was out, because I'm probably a Lapsed fan in a way, but I like the business. I'm interested. I love wrestling books and wrestling. It's a fascinating world that they live in,
Definitely fascinating.
So I love to, even maybe more than I like wrestling now, I like the business.
The business of it?
Yeah. I like reading Dave Meltzer, who's he writes the dirt sheets, like the tabloid wrestling journalism and stuff. I like that stuff. But so I do that too. So I'll put out one of those a lot of times in the middle. And it's a different audience, and it has gained a good amount of traction. And it's on the same feed. Mm-hmm. So I think both shows help each other a little bit. Again, the 24-inch podcast is for fun. And I love doing it. I love my co-host Dave in New Jersey. He's a one of one.
Yeah.
He's an absolute character. Just the internet.
Yeah, nice.
He's an absolute character. There's a really great wrestling podcast network called The Place to Be Nation. Mm-hmm. And they have some good shows. And I think I watched them and he watched them. And we just kind of met in the comments or something. Who knows,
Yeah.
And he liked things I like Hulk Hogan and rock and roll. And, because we got to talk about Canadian rock and roll at some point. That's another thing I love.
Yeah.
But we should stay on track for now.
Yeah.
But
we'll come back to that.
I love Canadian rock and roll. So, I wanted to go to see Lakeside Park. I'm like, we're pretty close to Lakeside Park. Maybe we should go see it.
Lakeside Park is...
It's a Rush song.
Oh, and that's around here?
It's in, I think, St. Catharines.
St. Catharines? Yeah, because they're from Kits, right?
Well, Neil Peart is from St. Catharines.
He definitely
The other two from Toronto, but
yeah,
they had, well, whatever. We'll get into it. Don't keep me.
Yeah,
right.
back to the podcast.
So those work well together, but yeah, consistency has been a problem. Again, I'm not a good promoter.
You're a great talker, though.
I'm a good interviewer, I think.
Yeah, you're great.
And I can book.
Yeah.
There is nobody in the world right now in their spare bedroom with a podcast of one. I am one person.
Yeah.
There is nobody in the world who's getting Bob Costas.
I know, you just had him on. I was listening to it when you got here.
Joe Buck and,
How?
Well,
you've been around.
You build a reputation, right? First of all, that SI article helps.
Yeah.
Bob Costas came on because of the article.
That's sick.
Because I was able to say to him, hey, I'd love to have you. And he said, maybe. And I said, all right, check this out. And I'm sure he knows Wertheim or knows who Wertheim is.
Yeah.
And he reads, who did an amazing job in that. It made me sound like the greatest thing,
Right.
And and then he read that and he said, all right, I'll come on.
Oh, nice.
So that's an invaluable thing I have. But we talked about Pearl Jam, a little bit of naivety and ignorance. I went into podcasting that way too. It was early days of Twitter. And I had no problem, as much shame for whatever reason I have as saying, hey, please check out my thing. Mm-hmm. I had no problem going into someone's Twitter DM in 2011 and saying, will you come on my podcast?
Yeah.
I had a guest for the podcast before I had a podcast. I had Jeff Passan booked before I had a name, before I had equipment, before I knew it. That Christmas, I got a book called Death of the BCS. The BCS is how they used to determine the champion of college football. It was this computer formula, and one would play two, and it was always a mess because there was always a third or fourth team that were like, why aren't we 1 or 2?
Yeah.
And the answer is always, well, the computer. Well, what? You know, it was always a mess. So these guys wrote this book called Death of the BCS. And I told you my new reality, I knew I needed something, right? So I read that book and thought, I wonder if it could be a podcast where you just read these books and then you ask, like, I had questions still, and I'll just ask those guys these questions.
Interesting.
Right? That was my thought. So I looked in the book, found out who the publisher was, Googled the publisher, found the PR person at the publisher.
Yeah.
And I remember I emailed her like, hey, I have a podcast live
in the works.
Right? Yeah. Hey, I have a podcast and I just read this book and there were 3 authors. I said, are any of the guys available to do an interview? And she's within a day somehow. Wow. I had an interview scheduled with Jeff Passan.
That's amazing.
He was at Yahoo at the time. And we did the interview and I created the show and I got it up and my mom listened. Right? Because who the hell knew about it, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, my mom listened to it. I said, that's great. She loved it. She's like, that's an amazing podcast. I was like, thank you, Mom. You know?
That's awesome.
And that was the first week, right? And then my first thought was play the Buffalo angle. Buffalo people like to treat Buffalo people well, right?
Buffalo is a great spot.
Who can I find in sports media or media in general that's from Buffalo? So I found a guy named Richard Deitch, who was at Sports Illustrated. And I wrote him and I said, hey, I have a podcast. Jeff Passan was on it. I'm from Buffalo. And he said, all right. Right?
You emailed him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Twitter, I think.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then I figured out that everyone at Sports Illustrated, if you knew one person's email, you knew everyone's. Right?
Their first name, last name,
it was first letter of first name, last name at simail.com.
Perfect.
So now look, that's not exactly breaking the code for the nuclear bomb or whatever, but
it's a solid hack.
I figured out like, okay, I know everyone at Sports Illustrated's email.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if they're on Twitter, doesn't matter if their DMs are open. I just email them.
Yeah. I love it.
And episode 6 was Joe Poznanski from SI, who happened to be at that moment the sports writer of the year. So now you go to the next guest and say, well, I had Joe Poznanski.
That's so sick.
And that guy says, well, he's the sports writer of the year. He's going on this dumb show. Maybe I'll go on. And it was interesting challenges back then because so then the 20th episode, I decided I want to get Peter King, who's like a huge star in football writing. He's basically retired now. Right. So that I think he was the senior SI writer. You ever see the Sports Illustrated football preview issue? He's the guy on the cover story all the time.
Solid.
And I want to get him for the 20th show is my thought. So I ask him, and he says, "Well, all right, but what's a podcast?" And those are the kind of challenges now, then. Right? He's like, "Well, what is that?" Like, I'll do it, but what are you asking me? Is it video? Is it audio?
Right.
Do you come here? Do I go there? So those are the challenges then. Getting people to understand what they were doing. And then, getting it to people. And people would say to me all the time, I want to listen, but I don't know how to listen to a podcast.
Because you do audio only.
Yeah, I still do audio only. And I'll tell you why. Because I think it gives me an edge in booking. Because now everyone's doing video, and to be able to say to Bob Costas, which I did, oh no, you don't need to brush your hair. That does
simple.
I need that edge, I think.
Yeah, and you do it. You do it where people. It's not like this, not in person. They do.
No, I've had a few people in person, people that I know and the business over the years. I've been in town or whatever. I've had people in studio.
Yeah,
I think this year I want to do my first live show.
Live.
My brother is a manager of a bar in Lancaster, New York, which is, a suburb of Buffalo.
They serve pizza there?
No.
Okay.
Chicken sandwiches.
Okay.
Air fry in the air fryer though.
Yeah.
It's a really nice bar chain, and they're like craft beer type of place,
Okay.
Yeah. Mug club, craft beer. And But I figure like, I'll get some big Buffalo people on and do it. So I want to try. It's a goal for this year.
I like it.
But the challenges then were what I said, and the challenges now everyone's asking them to be on a podcast. Mm-hmm. So you have to be, they get 100 requests a week.
Yeah.
So
how are you going to get picked? Yeah.
Yeah. And I've never cut any corners. I never used someone who gave me their time to advance myself. I knew right away I wasn't going to do that. I was going to do no cheap clicks. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to go behind a guest back to Awful Announcing or some other website and say, hey, this guy said this.
Right.
Yeah. I wasn't going to do that to anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
I wanted it to be a place where I wanted respect as much as anything for whatever reason. I really looked up to some of these people. So it meant a lot to have their respect.
Yeah, totally.
That meant something to me. And I never just limited to sports or sports media. It is that, but anything that I care about. So, and that led to my first real break. So Duff McKagan, who was the bass player for Guns N' Roses. In 2011, Guns N' Roses didn't exist, really, right? Mm-hmm. And he was doing a sports and business column for ESPN.
Okay.
So I read it one day. It was pretty cool. And I thought I should reach out to ESPN. I started to have a little bit of a relationship with them. Mm-hmm. I knew who to email. Mm-hmm. I said, I wonder if it'd be cool to just interview the guy from Guns N' Roses. My first concert was Guns N' Roses, a big food fight at Rich Stadium.
Yeah?
The Bill Stadium was them and Metallica. I was like 11. It was a huge food fight. My dad was so pissed.
That sounds like a good time.
Cheese in my ear. It's like, I'm sorry.
It was a good time.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
So I thought that'd be cool. So I was recording on Tuesdays. I had to go somewhere in the beginning to record, so I didn't have equipment yet. Mm-hmm. So I had access to time on Tuesdays, and I wrote him and said, is there any time Duff will be available on a Tuesday? They said, this day, this time. So I went to record with him, and the day before, Monday night, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announced that Guns N' Roses was going to be inducted that year.
No way.
So, and I've searched and searched and searched, but I'm pretty sure I had the first on-the-record interview with someone from Guns N' Roses after that announcement, and I got to answer the simple questions of, do you think you'll play? Do you think Axl will be there? Will Slash be there?
So sick.
He had no answers, really. He had no idea.
Right.
He barely knew they were in the Hall of Fame at that. The announcement was the night before.
Right.
So and again, this was never my intention. This was dumb luck.
Yeah.
I was prepared to talk to him about sports and business
sports
column
stuff.
ESPN.
Yeah.
What are you doing in Seattle? He's in Seattle at the time. And again, we did that, but and I knew a friend who's a big fan. He's like, post the link here, this message board, and I mean, within 2 days, the hosting company at the time was like, you're out of bandwidth.
What?
Like, you got to take that down.
Got to take it down?
I'm like, what do you mean I take it down? They're like, you have no band. We should never let you post on here for like a year. They're like, what you paid us and the amount of bandwidth, because it was early. This was before SoundCloud and things like that. It was early in the run.
Right.
It was still 2011.
Yeah, infrastructure was different.
Yeah, it was different. And we had paid for, I guess, unlimited for the year. But they had enough. They're like, you had 191 last week. What is 347,000 people? Whatever he said to me at the time.
Right.
Like, what happened? And I told him, I'm like, well, Guns N' Roses fans want to know if Slash is going to be at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's amazing.
So that was the first piece of growth, really.
That was a nice spark, eh?
Yeah.
What episode was that?
It was season 1. It was 2000, probably the winter of 2011.
So like 20 in-ish?
Yeah, 40 maybe. Because I did a lot. That was hustling,
Right.
I was trying to get, and I was healthy enough and nothing else to do in life, right?
Yeah.
So I was hustling a little bit. But then my brother, so I told you I was high school good, right? I was second team all Buffalo. I was a good high school hockey player.
Yeah.
But I was only a high school hockey player.
I feel that I was high school good football. So
yeah.
I feel that.
You know the difference, right?
Oh, big time.
It's like, I can change a game in high school hockey, but that's it.
Yeah.
I played some pretty high level roller hockey after that, but
oh, nice.
I knew as far as I said that, but my brother was pro good, really. And he got a D1 scholarship to Yale.
Oh, sick.
So he was at Yale in 2013.
Classy.
And he's not smart, though. Like, I wrote half of his senior dissertation or whatever, so he's that smart.
That's all right.
Yeah. But he got in through the Zamboni door. The smart kids go in the front door. He went in the Zamboni
all
door.
Right. He got in.
He got in, though, right?
Yeah.
He's got the degree,
Yeah.
and all the benefits that come with that.
Yeah.
But in 2013, it was their best team. And it's one of the times I got really sick. So I was in the hospital, I think, from January 28th to March 13th, basically.
Wow.
And in the middle there, their goalie got hurt. They started losing. Coach was mad. Took them off. They couldn't party, right? No drinking hours. Like, tighten the whip, right? Like, we're losing. We got to get the ship steering the right way.
Right.
And their coach, the great Keith Elaine, he whipping him into shape. So my brother calls me one day. I'm in the hospital, right? I'm in the hospital alone in Buffalo. He's at Yale, right? And he's giving me this, man, I don't know. Maybe I made the wrong choice. Like, what am I doing here?
Come on.
Coach won't let us drink. I just bumped into JFK's grandson and, I don't know. Like, he's just living it's like tone deaf call, right?
Right.
I said, listen, first of all, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. No, you say whatever you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Second of all, like, the Frozen Four is in April. It's in Pittsburgh. We have friends there too. I was like, you take care of what you have to take care of in New Haven. Mm-hmm. I'll take care of what I have to take care of here. Mm-hmm. And I'll see you in April at the Frozen Four.
Yeah. It's a good
point.
I
think I believed that at the time. Maybe I was just thinking of something to say to him to wake him up.
Perk him up.
Because, he's like, well, maybe I should be visiting you. No. Yeah. Nothing to do here. Shut up. But we both made it, right? They made it. I made it. They won the national championship. Like, they won the whole thing.
Oh, sick.
In the house that Sidney Crosby built in Pittsburgh.
That's awesome.
There's this unbelievable photo of him on the ice holding the national championship trophy over his head. And he's got this thing on someone in the crowd it's like for Yale or for country, for what they have this saying and it's for Yale. And the Yale was crossed off and someone put hockey on it. Somehow it ended up over his shoulder and he's got the trophy up. And it's like, you look at it and it's like 15 years of my family's life. Like, it culminated in this.
That's awesome.
Everything because to get a hockey player to that level, it's a lot of sacrifice.
From a lot of people.
Yeah. Like, his senior year of high school, I bought his sticks. Sticks were like $250 at the time. I bought every stick he used that year.
Yeah.
And then the next year he's in the USHL and he gave me a stick with his name on it. Because when you get to USHL, there's stick budget. He had a custom.
That's awesome.
So whatever. But so we both get there. We both win. If they win, it's the end of the night. I'm tired. I got to go back to our friend's house. And I take my brothers aside and we just have a moment. It's a little moment. Arms around each other. I think I said, I love you guys.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Our uncle took a picture of it. A couple weeks later, I'm home. Dust has settled. Still recovering. I'm looking through pictures one night because I want to think about it some more, And I see that picture. And I'm like, oh, it's like one of the best moments of my life.
Awesome.
That might be the best moment of my life that I have a picture of.
Captured.
Right? I tweeted something along those lines. And I didn't have a great account yet. It's 2009, 400, 500, 600 followers. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Richard Deitch from SI, my Buffalo buddy who was on episode 2, he saw the tweet. And he had a little bit bigger reach than me. And he liked the tweet. And he didn't retweet it. He tweeted his own tweet. But he basically said the same thing I did. And he put hat tip and tagged me. And it went mega viral.
Yeah.
Like, we were on we were on the CBS Evening News.
No way.
Good Morning America.
No way.
Like, our picture, I was going up 700-800 followers a day.
Yeah.
There was a little wave there. Richard got a book deal out of it that kind of fell through. I don't think the book ever came out. But again, it's a moment. right?
Yeah, totally.
And
totally.
And that was one I got to ride pretty high because it was coming on the backside of. This is the one time it came on the other side of being sick,
the
right?
good side, yeah.
And so that was another time, and then probably Slate in 19, and then the Sports Illustrated article in 21.
21.
Those are probably like the main and then believe it or not, this Costas interview is almost like a mini one too because he doesn't do many. Yeah, it was in January 5th I put it up.
Yeah, yeah.
And I haven't put one up yet because by design I've kind of let that. I want that to just sit at the top.
Ride it.
You know what I mean? I'm just been riding, and it's still getting.
What was that like talking to Bob too?
Oh, it was. Well, first of all, I went to Syracuse because that's where he went. I went. A friend of mine's brother went there when I was in high school, and I went on a weekend with him.
I gotta check one thing. Keep going.
Yeah,
I want to check.
I went a weekend with him, and I knew that day that's where I went. That's the only college I applied to. You know what I mean?
You're like all or nothing.
And the big reason I didn't want to try to play junior hockey or anything is because I want to go to Syracuse. I want to go to where Bob Costas went, and I was always a huge fan of him. And I think one thing that's different about having Bob Costas versus my other guests, maybe all of them, my grandmother knows who Bob Costas is, right? Because he's been around. He's the host of the Olympics in the United States. It's Ron McLean, I think, is Bennett,
Canada,
right?
Yeah.
Canada, but he's the Ron McLean of the Olympics in the United States.
I think we would say it the other way around, but I got
Sure,
you.
Yeah. And so everyone watches the Olympics. Right? My grandmother knows.
Oh, yeah.
And he's on CNN now because he's kind of semi-retired. Just kind of does a lot baseball now. He's really a baseball guy at heart, right?
Right.
That's his number one thing. But yeah, that's been different where, I can say, and it's another, I can show you the article and I can say Bob Costas. It's another,
totally
put me to another level. And I felt it already.
Yeah.
Because right now, the hardest thing about podcasting, in my opinion, right now, is booking it.
Yeah, finding good guests.
It's just everyone is asked.
Interesting.
Anyone you can think of to be on your podcast has been asked.
Totally.
To be if they're good.
See, because we're playing different games. Because myself, this is an additional piece of content for me.
Sure. Yep.
And I wanted to do it because I think it's great. Talking with people like you, anybody, I can't even monetize. Well, the only, I post this only on YouTube and I don't even know, nothing. I don't even know how the monetization stuff works at all. But even in Canada, I can't monetize Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. So there's no money coming from that. But I did this because I love talking to people.
Sure.
I want to get people on here so that we can teach people some stuff because learning about different things. And
again, that's why I never just limited it to sports too, right? Because someone else has a story too that I want to hear questions I have about it.
But you've had a lot of cool
I've
people.
had musicians, I've had comedians, I've had
all kinds of stuff.
I had Nick Bakay on, who's he's a producer and how he produces television shows.
It's amazing.
He's a Buffalo guy too.
Nice.
One thing I found, and I brought you the books, and I get a lot of books, right?
Yeah, thanks for bringing them.
Normally when someone puts out a book, it's either the best thing they've done in their life or the most time consuming. And when it's time to sell them, they'll do anything. Right? My number one fuel for booking over the years has been who has a book out. I've got Artie Lang, for example, would have never been on my show if he didn't have a book out.
But it's time to promote it. So let's go.
But it's time to promote it. And I hounded that poor lady who was, because I'm a huge Howard Stern guy.
Nice.
I've listened to Howard Stern every day since 1994. Now, I haven't listened to a new episode since 2010 or so. I'm strictly catalog. It's garbage now. Well, it's not the same show. It's not for me anymore.
Wait, what's different? I don't even know.
So Howard Stern went from being the guy who was against. He was going to be the voice of the everyday American or North American. He was on in Canada as well.
Yeah.
So he was going to be the voice of the people.
Yeah.
Right. But then he just got so rich.
He changed,
and he wants to be a voice of. He's a celebrity now.
Yeah.
He was always. Why don't people take me seriously? Why ain't I a celebrity? Why doesn't why don't these celebrities want to have dinner with me? You know, why does everyone? And now it's like he's Hollywood Howie. You know, he's in the Hamptons. He's, you know, he was on America's Got Talent or whatever for a few years.
Right.
And he owns all of his tapes, right? All of his shows he owns. Anything that's on tape, he owns it. And he has a second channel on Sirius for that stuff. But if you listen to it, it's all 2010 or more. Because he doesn't want you to know the insane, and I hear stuff every day where I'm like, I can't believe that aired.
What, like
it would not, his show that he did from
like raunchy? He's like,
it's not necessarily, it's like things that are taboo now weren't then. You know, like when during the OJ trial is maybe a good example. Mm-hmm. Howard was very into OJ being guilty. Like to him, his view of the evidence was OJ is guilty. Gotcha. And there was no changing his mind. No doubt in his mind, right? Mm-hmm. And he was very early. And if you watch the OJ documentary that ESPN put out, you know that race was a huge part of that trial, right? Mm-hmm. And a huge part of how it played out, you know? Mm-hmm. And he would send Stuttering John into the streets in Harlem and say, find a black person. And he would find one. And then say, is OJ guilty or not guilty? And if they said not guilty, he would ridicule them. You know, like he was not politically correct, I think is what I'm saying. Right. He would not. And back then, people were willing to say, well, it's joking. It's a bit. It's the radio. Right. It's for fun. Right. He makes fun of all people. Right. You know, he's Jewish. He makes fun of Jewish people. You know, he's whatever. That doesn't fly really anymore, right? It's like the way like women, he would, you know, a girl would come in and my Playboy material, you know, and they would have laser pointers and say, well, you got a little bit of cellulite over here. You could never do that now. Yeah. Now, the girl came in wanting them to do that. Yeah. But
that wouldn't fly now.
It wouldn't fly, I don't
Way
think.
Too edgy. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and I hear stuff every day. Eazy-E was on one time. The rapper who was in NWA, right? Yeah,
great.
And you know what that stands for, right?
Yeah.
So the whole interview was Howard saying what it stands for, finding different ways to say the name of NWA, trying to get a rise out of Eazy-E, right?
Out of Eazy-E.
Yeah.
Well, how is he?
And by the way, he had the chief of police from LA sitting in the other chair. And this is like right at the LA riots. And you know their songs are... They have the After Police song famously and everything. Oh, yeah. So he had this. So he's a provocateur, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good way to get attention is by stirring the pots.
And he's very embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
Now. You know, he doesn't want anyone to know.
Interesting.
And like as people have come to the show and left, you're dead to him. You know, so like the whole Artie Lang era, you know, he cuts Artie. You'll hear a bit and you know Artie's talking. In the bit, I'll listen to it, and his voice doesn't. What happened to Artie? They cut him out.
Cut him out.
You know what I mean? Like, you know.
Really?
Where's Jackie? I listened to something from the Jackie Martling days. Where's Jackie? They cut him out. So there's a community, though, out there.
Interesting.
That preserved the show. There's something called Stern Files that comes out every Monday, and it's like a playlist, and it goes from like, you know, the 80s to... Everyone has their time where they bailed. To me, it's somewhere between Artie leaving and his big birthday bash, which was in January 14.
Would you have him on?
Would I have Howard on? Oh my God. Howard would never come on. I don't think Howard has ever done
anything other than his own.
And he's did, you know, Tonight Show, things like that.
Yeah.
But I've never heard him on in the podcast era. Yeah. On a podcast or anything.
Because it's interesting. You had love for him back then, but not now. So would you?
Yeah, I mean, of course I would have him on, but I'd have to say at some point, like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, that would be interesting,
right? You know, it's you know, and again, and that's another thing. When people come on, like I am, not to get political, but I am usually the least liberal person on the podcast.
Gotcha.
Right, the sports media world in the United States, and I'm sure in Canada, is very, very liberal. Media in general is very liberal.
Media. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
So I know going in that often I'm going to be much more conservative. But I'm not. bringing them in to try to play I gotcha about some political issue or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would never call the person for that. You know what I mean? You know, if that person brings something up and they want to talk about it and we get into that's one thing. But, you know, I avoid that kind of thing too. You know, like I don't want to, like, you know, I'm very appreciative someone will give me their time.
Yeah, totally.
And, you know, I'm always very prepared. I'm very thorough with preparation.
Much more than I am.
Yeah. Well, and this lends it to a more free-flow conversation, you know, where sometimes I do feel like I have to prove myself to some people.
Right.
You know, because I am, in the end, I'm a guy in a bedroom, right? I am that, you know, and you know, maybe in some ways I've transcended that with the work that I've done over the years, but I still am that. I still am a guy in this bedroom.
So how did you, I want to ask you about this because how have you crafted your skills to get better? Like what you listen to, like,
well, in college, I was a communication major. I went to Buffalo Performing Arts Academy, and that was my high school. And I was a radio and TV major.
Okay.
You know, I started working in the radio studio in high school, learning the knobs and
gotcha.
But more so this part of it than that part.
Yeah.
There was someone else in my class who wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So I let them do that, and I did this.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk.
Yeah.
And they wanted to.
Yeah.
But I learned a bit.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I went to college, and, you know, I do have a degree, communication degree, and it was audio focused.
Interesting.
You know, so I did have a background. You know, sports radio was always the thing I thought I might do. But then I never wanted to move to Iowa or something to start. So that's why I went to education. Like I told you, I'm a Buffalo guy. You know, we go on vacation and we're gone a week. And we come back, we're flying back, and I look out the window and I see Buffalo, and like I feel something in my balls I haven't felt in a week. You know what I mean? Like
I love
there's
it.
something about when I see.
I know Buffalo's a great
and
city.
I hate New York.
New York City.
New York State.
The state.
I hate it.
Really?
I wish I could live in another state.
What? Why?
Well, one is because New York City is such a. It's so hard to be another city in the state. I'm sure everyone. My dad has been saying since I was a kid, they should make New York City its own state. You know, that's been one of his crusades for my whole life. You know, and like if you think about it when it comes to elections, and this is a non-political take, when it comes to elections, Brooklyn, which is 1/5 of New York City, is bigger than Philadelphia. So when you get to a statewide election, they choose.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? Like
totally. That's interesting.
You know, we don't have a chance in hell. You know, like So I would rather not live in New York State, but I love Buffalo, and I could never not live there.
Buffalo people are great people.
The city of good neighbors. That's a nickname, right?
I didn't know that. That's amazing because like we as Canadians have this reputation of being nice and polite.
Yep.
I don't know. When I go over to Buffalo, I have way more small talk and great talks with random people. When I'm over there doing pizza reviews, I'm in line with anybody. We're shooting the shit about whatever. Here in Canada, and you don't get that.
Part of it is too, like we love Buffalo, and you come into Buffalo and saying I love, you're in. You know what I mean? Like
I don't even say that. I don't even have to express my love for Buffalo. Just people like I'll be at the gas station pumping gas, and I'm chatting with a guy my age, a woman that's 65, and like almost every time.
Well, the Bills thing is probably part of it, right? Because I know you do like the Bills, right?
Yeah,
you get a lot of Bills talk.
I just random stuff.
Random stuff, yeah.
Just could be anything.
Well, to me, it's the greatest place in the world to live. And I know that there's a billion people out there to tell me it's not.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's fine.
San Diego's not bad.
But for me, during the pandemic, my wife and I, we took a map out one day. We're just doing this for fun.
Yeah.
But we're like, if we just can't live in New York State anymore. So, you know, New York State was brutal to get out of the pandemic. We lost, our governor resigned in shame over his nonsense from the pandemic, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we said, if there ever got to a point where we just can't live in this, where we go? We're looking at the whole map, you know? Like the first instinct is Florida, but it's too hot for me. I can't live in Florida.
It's hot.
I've been a huge Saints fan since I was 7 years old. I'm not going to Louisiana. It's even hotter than Florida, you know? So I think we like Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You know, it's similar to Buffalo, you know, 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Maybe not enough sports there for me, though. My brother played junior hockey there. It's kind of like I thought of it. I kind of like South Dakota. Wyoming, maybe. Oh, that's so barren. And we put it away and said, we're not going anywhere. You know, I don't know where we go, but we're here. We're going here. We're staying here.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're dying here. I'm dying there.
Yeah, I like it.
You know what I mean? That's my place. And do you ever watch The Wire?
I have, yeah, Baltimore.
So, you know, in season 1, Wallace, right? Michael B. Jordan became one of the big stars. He goes to his grandma's house for a bit. He's kind of out of the game. And he gets homesick and he comes back.
Right.
But he's in trouble kind of because he'd been gone away and there's some questions about his loyalty. And his direct boss is a D'Angelo Barksdale. It's his nephew. Mm-hmm. And he kind of takes the kid. He likes the kid. And he takes him aside and says, this might not be for you anymore. You know, you sure you don't want to go back to grandma's? And he's nervous for the kid, you know?
Right.
And he kind of puts his arms out and he's standing in the projects are behind him. He's like, this is me. This is me right here. You know, I'm from here. And that's how I feel
That's you in Buffalo.
That's how I feel about Buffalo, you know?
Buffalo's a great city.
It's me in front of the 2000 last year on Christmas. Wednesday night, I looked out my window, saw my neighbor. I came back an hour later. I couldn't see him. Didn't see him again until Friday. And that was shit. Okay, that sucks.
You guys got a lot of snow.
Last Christmas was the worst of my lifetime. There's the blizzard of 77, which is sort of infamous.
Yeah.
Everyone says was like the storm. This is second at worst. I mean, people died. You know, people died, froze in their cars. Because they said, don't go out. And they said, no, I'm going out. And then they got stuck. And then couldn't get to you, whatever. It was bad. It was bad. And it was Christmas.
Yeah.
You know, my brother was home for Christmas. I saw him for 2 hours. 4 days later, he was stuck at my other brother's house.
Yeah, eh?
You know, it was brutal. We get 100 inches of snow a year. Pretty much every year. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, we got it an inch a day for 100 days. Basically.
Right, spread it out.
I remember getting off the bus every day, looking at the driveway thinking, fuck.
Got a shovel.
Again?
Yeah.
Because I was the oldest. I shoveled till I graduated high school.
Yeah.
And my mom and my evil stepfather said, when you graduate high school, your other brother will inherit the shovel. He went out the first day, got halfway down the deck, fell, broke his wrist, and never shoveled again.
Did he do that on purpose?
I think so. I don't think he intended to break his wrist, but, you know, I think he took a dive out there. Yeah, he wasn't built for it, let me tell you that much.
Right.
But yeah, it was every day. And now it's not like that. Now what happens is the lake doesn't get cold enough in the fall. It's too warm in the fall now. Mm-hmm. And the lake stays warm. And then when it gets cold in December and January and the warm air goes over the lake.
Get the big snow.
But I live north. So it's always, except for Christmas last year, we always usually miss like what they got in Orchard Park.
Yeah.
Like Orchard Park is much further south.
The snow belt.
They're right, like Orchard Park, Hamburg.
Right.
Those areas really get it bad. You know, like out by Blaisdell Pizza or, what's the one I love that Pat King goes to? They just rebuilt Imperial.
Oh, yeah. Imperial's good pizza.
Imperial. Yeah. And Picasso's. Oh, Picasso's is a few different locations. But yeah, out there, West Side, it's way worse than where I live.
Is there only one Imperial?
There's one Imperial.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting.
But there's a few Picasso's, a few Bocce.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what are your favorites? Buffalo ones?
In Buffalo so far, Macy's and Kenmore.
Okay. They're great social media people too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's blowing it up.
He's that pizzeria, they
he's
knew
having
how to
fun. Yeah.
use social media to make their pizzeria.
He's having fun making good pizza. I can't remember the scores, but like recently I remember going to Matina's.
Yep, that's really good.
Yeah. Like, I mean,
Picasso is my number one.
Picasso's was fantastic too. Yeah.
And I love Bocce and I love Imperial. I think those are my three, like sort of a tier.
They're so good.
Yeah.
Like, you guys know how to pizza in Buffalo.
Yeah. Well, a lot of Italians.
Yeah.
You know, being Italian is there any reason we need to talk about me being Italian? Because this is another thing I'll talk about all day long. You know?
I love it.
Yeah. My grandmother, my great grandmother was born in the United States, which I didn't know this until I was 20. Her parents came here at the turn of the century and opened a hotel in Pennsylvania. And a hotel then meant people going from east to west would stop off and
spend the night,
eat some food, whatever. And big grandma, my mom's great grandma, hated it and took my great grandma back to Italy. But
Really?
she was born here, or not here, but in the United States.
Yeah.
Forgot I'm not in the United States. I can't say here. Close enough. She was born in North America in the United States. So she was a citizen. So when Mussolini temporarily ruined Italy, she could come back. But my grandmother was 12 and her sister was 8. They couldn't come back. My grandma had to come, get settled, fill out the paperwork, send for them. My grandmother at 12 years old had to take her 8-year-old sister by the hand, walk her onto the boat.
Wow.
This was not a cruise liner.
No.
Get on that boat, go all the way across, and then find her parents at Ellis Island, which I never even thought of that till much later. Like couldn't text her. I'm over by the.
Yeah. No. Had to find.
You got to then start just try. Where's mom? And my grandmother's sister told me, she said, she held me for 2 weeks, because we were scared. And she didn't let me out of her sight because she was 8, even younger, right? And my grandmother, I called her, Nonna, it's Italian grandma.
Yeah.
And I have 2 brothers, and then my aunt has 3 kids, so 6. I'm the only one who knew her. You know what I mean? Because she died in 1995, so I was 15. Like my brothers were alive, but like my youngest brother was 4. So he doesn't remember. And what happened was she got Alzheimer's. And I remember she would make me pasta, right? So like I would say, Grandma, I'm hungry. And she'd be like, good. It was the happiest moment of her life, right? He's hungry. I can feed him. That's awesome. That's why Italian grandmas live, right? They just want to feed you. So
great.
She would always, either she's making it or she has it. She'd reheat it, whatever. So this one day, I see her. I'm sitting at the table. I see her. She pulls out the sauce. She pulls out the noodles. And she's cooking the noodles. And I'm looking, and the sauce is just on the counter still. And I'm watching, and I'm watching, and I'm watching. And then she makes my plate, and she gives it to me. She forgot. And I just ate every noodle. I didn't even say a word.
No sauce.
I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
Because I knew I was young.
Yeah.
But I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
And my aunt, my mom, my uncle started to know something was wrong. So this one day, everyone's going to be gone for the day. So it's like, oh, Mom, you should go to the movie. Just trying to find something for her to do. And it wasn't Beaches, but it was a movie that Bette Midler was in. And they had said to her, oh, remember she was in Beaches? She's got a movie. Go see this. So it's right down the street. She's still driving. We get home that night. How's the movie? Oh, I didn't like it. It was too bloody. She went to the Hunt for Red October. We don't know why she got confused, whatever. And then, that's how it goes. Yeah. Now, we don't know that she had Alzheimer's because you don't actually get it that, like she had dementia, right? We think it was Alzheimer's, but it could have been some other form. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But she died when I was 15. And my great grandmother, she died that day too. She didn't really, but that was the end of her. She made it another year or two. Yeah. She died when I was a senior. But, my grandmother's name was Paula. My daughter's name is Paula. Nice. Like that at her funeral, I was sitting there saying, I'm going to have a daughter someday. I'm going to name her Paula.
Nice.
And when my wife was pregnant and the lady came in and she said, it's a girl, we looked at each other and her name was Paula. We didn't talk about it. And this is an unbelievable credit to Tammy.
It's awesome.
Because that wasn't her dream. That was mine, right? But she didn't even.
It's awesome.
Say,
she's a good girl.
Name it. What about this? Or would you consider? We knew,
It's awesome.
And so it's really important to me to make sure she knows what Paula was and what she stood for and where she came from.
It's awesome.
And I'm a huge fan of the Italian soccer team, the Azzurri, the national team.
Nice. And
Juve is my club team, but Italy is, this is that's an Italy logo that my friend remade into a sportscaster's logo.
That is a sick logo.
Yeah.
That is really
and the 4
sick.
stars, that's for each World Cup we won. So
what happens when the next one? You can add one?
There's have to be a 5th one, yeah. We got to freaking make it. We haven't made the last 2 somehow.
Yeah.
But when the pandemic came and sports went away, and then then it got like political about them coming back. Like the college football conferences in the South wanted to come back. The ones in the North didn't.
That's wild.
I was like, you know what? It's like we talk about consistency. Sports gave me a chance to find something else to do, and I did. And it wasn't until the Euros, the 2020 Euros played in 2021, I had this guy on the podcast that was one of the announcers of the games. I got him through ESPN.
Nice.
Mr. Champion. His name is Champion.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great name for a sportscaster, right?
Amazing.
Yeah. A British guy. And he told me, he's like, Italy is a dark horse here. Like they could win this, Sweet. Great.
Yeah.
And they freaking won it,
That's awesome.
And it brought me back, but it was also like sort of a cultural awakening. You know what I mean? Because when the 2016 Euros was days after my daughter was born. And I remember watching those games with her as a newborn, like laying on the ground, and here she was, and it was an extra year later because it didn't play in 2020.
Yeah.
There's actually 5 instead of 4, which I think was a big difference. Watching the matches with me, like she loves being Italian. She's Italian and Polish. She's Polish one day a year, Dingus Day. The rest of the year, she likes to go to the Dingus Day parade and hit people with the pussy willows. But every other day you ask her, she's Italian. And
that's awesome.
I eat like 3 pounds of capicola a week, but whatever. Do you have questions? I just keep talking.
No, this is amazing. So one thing talking about Italian soccer, I was thinking one of the most heartbreaking moments in sports for me was Baggio.
Oh, I'll tell you my story.
Yeah.
So it's 1994.
You have a good memory.
Yep, 1994 World Cup is in the United States.
Yeah.
So it's probably the third one I watched. I think I watched in 86, 90, and 94. So 94 comes. Baggio's amazing in that tournament, right? Like he's dragging Italy.
Yeah.
Dragging them to the final, pretty much, right? And it's a Sunday afternoon, and my great-grandmother was living with us then. Mm. But she didn't see very good. She's oblivious. She barely spoke English anyway. She watched Oprah, and she'd watch it, and then you're like, well, who was on Oprah? I don't know. She didn't know. Mm-hmm. So the whole time, she's sitting behind me. Remember when TVs were furniture? Right? Like our TV was this big piece of wooden furniture with a decent-sized screen in the middle. Yeah. But I would lay on the ground and put my feet on the TV, and my dad would always knock them off, all pissed off or whatever.
Right.
But so that's where I was sitting. And I knew my grandma was back there, but I never gave it a thought. I thought she was sleeping, to be honest. Mm-hmm. My mom was making dinner, I remember. And it comes to penalties. I remember running out and telling my mom it's penalties. And he misses, and we lose. Mm-hmm. And I turn around, and my grandma tears are running down her face. I'm like, now I think in my mind, there's no way it's because Baggio missed a penalty. First of all, to me, I don't even think she knows what soccer is.
Right.
When she'd come to one of my hockey games after, she'd be like, you whack it. Yeah, okay. That's like her sports knowledge, right? So there's no way. So I'm like, Grandma, what is wrong? I think something else is wrong. Oh, Italy, they love us so much. In Italy, they play in the dirt, and they love us so much, and they are losing. Italy is so sad. I'm so sad for Italy. And I'm like, what happened to Italy? They lose in a game. And I'm still like, like,
you were watching?
What is going on?
That's awesome.
And so when we won in 2006, penalties, sort of the same way against France. Mm-hmm. The crazy game where Zidane headbutted. The headbutt, right?
Yeah.
And we win. And Fabio Grasso scores the winning penalty. First thing I did is I went to her grave. And I was like, Grandma.
We did it.
Everyone's happy in Italy. There's no one sad today in Italy. Everyone. I'm like, I saw the video. There's lighting fires in this. Everyone's happy. I promise you. So, yeah, the Italian soccer team has always been really important to me because it is a link to my heritage. And really, it became a different level that moment when my grandmother's crying about how everyone I love, they're in the mud and they kick the ball and, they love us so much. And, and she's like, she's dropping facts. So she's like, they win in 1982. I don't know if she had the year exactly right, but they win when you was a baby. They win, And I was like, where am I?
That's amazing. Yeah.
And never again was she so coherent about a sports related issue in her life. But
playing off Italian stuff, I gotta ask you about Italian food in Buffalo.
It's good. There's good restaurants. There's chefs.
Okay, so
there's a famous one and a really cool chef story. So you remember Alexander Mogilny?
Hockey
player.
Yes.
He defected from Soviet Russia to play for the Sabres. And early in his career, people are like, he's scared to fly. And people in Buffalo thought he's a pain in the ass. Come to find out, the reason he was afraid to fly is because the KGB, the Russian mafia, they were trying to extort him. And they were threatening him. And he was afraid they would shoot the plane out of this guy. And he'd kill all his teammates.
Really?
So he wore a wire in chefs.
Really?
And the FBI arrested these Russian in chefs
while he was playing,
while he was a Sabre.
That's crazy. I never heard that.
Yeah. Well, because they tried to keep it. But I'm a hockey guy. I know the hockey.
That's
so I heard
wild.
this hockey story from Scotty Bowman. Actually, told me.
Yeah,
the legendary, coach, Canadian coach. But he's a Buffalo. He lives in Florida now, but he lived in Buffalo for years. But no, great Italian food. Here's the thing about Italian food. And I was just talking about this. Is like when you grow up the way I did, right? And both of my grandmothers cooked sauce, right?
The good stuff.
My mom didn't. My mom never learned because she's stupid. Like how did you not learn? But now like Italy's coming here in March, and they're playing in Philly. And me and my daughter, we're going to go to the game, right?
Amazing.
And
are you going to buy tickets ahead of time or wait?
Oh, that you got to be ahead.
Okay,
because you're going to need like 6 or 7. My brother's coming from Jersey, whatever.
Yeah.
But before the game, they screamed the national anthem. So me and my daughter are trying to learn because we want to be able to scream. So I'm an idiot because I should have learned because they were always talking Italian. And when I was a kid, that's supposedly when you're supposed to learn. And I would tell them to stop and speak English. Shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
Damn it. But it's hard for me to just let go and just eat the damn sauce because I just think about, and I've built it up, I'm sure, to something it wasn't even like in my head. Like, because I haven't had, either of my grandmother's sauce since like 1996. Probably the last time my great grandmother made it before she died in 97.
Yeah.
When she was on her deathbed, she wanted sausage. She wanted, and the doctor's like, well, she can't have sausage. And everyone's like, why not?
Right.
Like, what? She'll die Thursday instead of Wednesday. So we didn't get her sausage, but she wanted Italian sausage in the sauce, But no, I have stuff I like. I do. And I love filled pasta. Like I love ravioli and I love manicotti and I love,
Where do you go for it? Like homemade stuff, or is there anywhere to go for it?
I mean, I have a meat market in Buffalo called Pelicanos. Shout out to Pelicanos, which is actually not far from where I live in North Tonawanda. And it's an opportunity to buy. It's an Italian market, so they have all kinds of like, I don't have to buy the Parmesan and I'll never buy that again. It's fresh grated.
The good
Parmesan now, I can buy there and
nice.
So it's improved, but it's a hard thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not grandma's. It's not Nona's.
I feel you.
And I'm just like,
I'm not even Italian. I'm Spanish. I feel like Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, we're kind of like cousins. And like I got a lot of Italian friends. And like it's hard to go to a restaurant for pasta when having so many good people making it at home.
And that's why what I do think I love the most is stuff I never ate at home.
Yeah.
Like I'll have like
nothing to compare it to.
Linguine and clam sauce. Like we really didn't make that at home.
Yeah.
So
what about pasta puttanesca? Was that ever?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, is that one you like?
Carbonara is one that we made a lot. And again, a lot of filled pasta. We're from Abruzzo, which is I guess west of Rome. It's kind of central Italy. So I don't know, maybe we eat a lot of stuffed pasta, like a lot of raviolis, a lot of stuffed shells, a lot of manicotti. And I have a, capicola addiction. Like I eat 3 pounds of capicola a week.
What about prosciutto?
Oh, I love it, but it's too expensive.
I got some here for
3 pounds.
I'm giving you some that we made. Don't let me forget. I got some.
I mean, it probably is the best Italian meat. It probably is.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, even a pound and a half of capicola right now is 17 something.
Yeah. Yeah. I got some good homemade prosciutto.
Plus I need Parmesan. Or provolone, excuse me. I usually eat provolone cheese.
Good stuff. You're making me hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. But we have to do at least a minute of Canadian rock before
Canadian rock and roll, and
I have no idea how long we've went, but
We're at about $120.
Okay.
Even before that, we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, because we were talking about before we started, like hiccups when doing podcasts. Because I told you every time I start, I'm like, I can't forget to start recording.
So there was a sporting event, the NCAA basketball tournament, and Duke and Kentucky played the game of the ages, right? And Christian Laettner, who was from Buffalo, scored the winning shot. I'm sure you've seen the highlight. Like anyone who's ever watched ESPN has seen this highlight. They throw the ball down all the way down the court. He catches it, dribbles, buzzer beater, right? Duke wins it, whatever. This guy named Gene Wojciechowski writes a book called The Last Great Game about that game.
Oh, sick.
So I'm constantly, what book is coming out? Who wrote it? Can I, have I had them? Never had Gene. So I set it up. I get the book, read it. He comes on. We do a great interview. He's really happy. And he asked for the MP3, put it on his website, went great. And I'm thinking like, he's going to be on every year, So then 6, 7, 8, 9 months pass. I ask him, I can't. Some reason. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I swear I would email him every year and he would say no for some other reason every single time. And I never understood it.
Mm-hmm.
But finally he says yes. And it must have been 8 years in between.
Wow.
Of him saying no. It almost was a joke between us. Like I write him once a year and he would, oh, I'm busy at Notre Dame that week, or oh, it's too close to the tournament, or
my dog has a bad appointment.
all this bullshit. We could find the emails, I'm sure. And I don't know what I said to get him to change his mind. I don't know if I just caught him in a moment. That Seinfeld where Jerry starts writing down the excuses by the phone. Maybe he didn't have his excuse book with him.
Right.
And he says yes, and he comes on and he calls me, and we're goofing in the beginning. Talking about him coming back on. I'm dropping these ridiculous names like you're harder to book than, Jesus, whatever. John Lennon was going to come on sooner than you were, right?
Right.
Whatever. And we're having a good time and we're doing a good interview. And I have, my board is like right here, and I sit like right here, and it runs to my laptop over here where it records. And I usually, when I'm talking to the person before I say, okay, let's get going, I do a little check, right? Like I'll just trick them into a quick conversation. I'll check the board. I'll check the laptop. Now you don't have to be recording to see a level at that point. I don't know what I did, but I swear we're 25 minutes into him being on for the first time in 8 years. And I look over and it is not recording.
Oh no.
And this is the first time I've ever done this. I'm probably 8 years in. I don't know exactly when it was.
Oh no.
So I finished the interview, hang up with him, never have talked to him again. I was just too embarrassed. I'm just never speaking to him again. I didn't call him to see if he'd redo it. I'm like, you know what? I'm taking that L. I asked this guy for 8 years to come back. He comes back and I didn't record it. I said, no, I hung up I finished the interview like it was recording with my, heart in my gut,
It's the worst feeling.
and it's like, all right, because there's no point in starting it. It was, again, we were doing 30 minutes. We're 28 minutes in or whatever when I noticed. It's like, so then it ended and I deleted, I closed the laptop and shut it. And it's like, who could I call instead to be on this? That's over. I've never, to this day, I've never emailed him.
Are you going to?
I doubt it.
No?
No, I'm taking the L. Clearly he doesn't want to really do it. There's sometimes.
Why do you think all of a sudden he started bringing
I don't know why he agreed to be on. Again, I think maybe I just caught him.
But why do you think he didn't want to?
I don't know. He just might not like to do them.
Interesting.
I don't because again, it went great. So I don't think it was personal. Like the podcast we did was really like there's a guy named Kyle Brandt who is on the NFL Network. And he's my age and he's a big Pearl Jam fan. We have a ton in common. And he did the podcast and he did it again about a year later. And then I asked him again and he's like, no, I've done it twice. I'm done. I can only do a few a year and I've done yours twice. I'm going to do other stuff. And so I respect that. Because here's the big problem with booking too, is people either say yes or nothing, right? Almost every person who's turned me down have done it by just ghosting.
Right.
They just don't write back.
Yeah. Eh?
They don't reply.
Interesting.
They're just gone. They're just
interesting.
You know.
See, and like I just want to talk a little bit about that because I'm like, as you know, like really small brand that I got going on. Like I'm doing,
and I'm small too. Don't get me wrong either.
Well, I
relatively
mean,
speaking,
we got different levels of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's always nice doing collaborations with different people, and like it's always nice to have people with a different audience, a bigger audience, and then like you go between doing stuff with people that are not as big and bigger, and it's interesting. You know, you ask people up. Sometimes they say no.
Right.
I've said no to people too when they want to do stuff when it's just like doesn't make sense.
You don't see the connection. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I don't like to do that, but sometimes like, and I don't know, should be maybe more open to it, but it's interesting to see how that goes. But I always say no.
I respect anyone who says no.
Yeah.
I can respect that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay. You don't want to do it. It's fine.
Off brand, this, that, or the
Could be
other.
a million reasons.
But I've never just ghosted somebody.
I could name.
Yeah. You
I have to think about it.
You don't have to.
But I have to think about it anyway. But yeah, there's a bunch of people, even people I've had on. They're just, you can't get them anymore.
They ghost, eh?
You know what I think is interesting when we were talking about bigger, smaller. You have a much bigger presence online than I do. My show gets the downloads it does because of it's. I've built subscribers up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I ever had to change my RSS feed or something, I would probably be screwed.
Yeah. Eh?
You know what I mean? To try to rebuild the subscriber base, because that's really my show. It's downloads based on a subscriber base, and then I'll see like the Bob Costas one where it drifts out beyond that, and that one will peak and spike. But you crush me when it comes to things like Facebook and Instagram, because I just don't like. I've grown up with these apps in their lifetime. Like, you know, I was on Instagram probably the first year.
Why not leverage them a little bit?
I just don't. I don't have the passion for it. That's part of it.
Yeah.
One thing is like I have a passion for interviewing.
Yeah.
You know, I have a passion for doing the show. You know, I love but I don't. I know it's a fault. It's a fault.
I know. I'm trying to think how to help you.
Admitting to you like I suck at that. You know, and part of it is like I wish sometimes like, oh, I should have had a kid like 8 or 9 years earlier because she could be in charge of this shit. You know what I mean? Because I hear people all the time like, oh, my kid helps you with social media or whatever. But I don't know.
You could still leverage the other platforms to try and direct traffic.
When every year I'll write, what do I want to do this year? Mm-hmm. First thing, get better at social media. Mm-hmm. You know, do better.
I'm happy to help.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to need your help but I'm not shy.
No, that's not the problem.
I'm not shy.
I feel you about self-promotion though, because I'm the same way about that because it doesn't feel like genuine to do it and it's tough. I get it.
What I do need to do, and it's almost malpractice that I haven't, is I need to start cutting interviews up a little bit and putting a minute or two of these interviews on Instagram Reels, and maybe that could be my YouTube.
Audio? Can you?
Well, or just me.
Yeah.
Record myself doing the interview or
so I recently, and I haven't done anything with it, but I was messing around with it when I was talking to some other guy that does content too, and I subscribe to it, but it automatically chops up the YouTube videos into clips.
Yeah. I have,
I think it's called Opius.
I have an app called Headliner, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And you sort of upload the audio file.
Yeah.
And then you can break it down and it gives you it looks like this. Like I did this one with Costas. It gives you that, and you can post that, and take clips out. Like it is insane. I haven't done something like that at this point. And I say you have to do it. But again, do I want to spend an hour trying to book the month or do I want to spend an hour on the app and I just decide I want to do them, and the reality is I need to spend both hours, but I'm getting there, but I'm just not good at it, And I've probably had 20,000 Twitter followers, but it's 1,000 come a year and 1,000 leave a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel that.
Because the counts go off or I don't know. It's something I'm not good at.
So let me just brainstorm with you a little bit because the platforms are free.
Yep.
So we can eliminate that being a hurdle.
Although Twitter, do need to subscribe.
Yeah.
Because you can do the longer tweets, you can post a longer video. If I'm really going to try to use, plus I don't think the tweets from an unsubscribed account get the natural reach that So all right, but whatever. Even if I pay $10 a month for Twitter.
Yeah. Right. But then Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Like you could be.
I'm probably not going to TikTok. The China thing, I'm probably not doing that.
No problem. So,
but I'll do the other ones.
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Like for you, I'm just trying to think, because at the end of the day, you want people listening to it where you're posting now, right?
Right.
Because that's
right. I want to use it to drive people to.
You want to get them there. Yeah. So,
which is what everyone does. It's not a unique idea.
Yeah. So like when you have a guest, you could simply you don't even need to. I'm just brainstorming on Instagram. Post any audio. You could just have a picture. Now you can't put links, but just saying like new podcasts available over here.
I have been doing better on Instagram with stories.
Good.
You know, when the episode comes out, I put a story up with the link.
Yeah.
I figured out how to do that, make it look nice.
Yeah.
And I did get a lot of redirection on the Costas one from like the first 24 hours. I think I had a couple hundred views of it, which isn't a lot, but 40 new people. Probably that wouldn't have listened, totally. That's fine for one episode. If you got 40 new people every week.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah, it's good growth.
But that's another thing. The click-through on the apps isn't always great. And that's a discouragement. It's excuses. It's just, I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I can book my ass off. I can interview. I can, I know the promotions are different. I do good interviews. And I can edit the show. And I can post the show. And then the time between it's posted and when I start that's when I'm bad, right? Like I'm just not a good promoter. Let me try and do a simple thing. Like do you have a Facebook business page for the podcast? I have a group page, I think. I don't know if it's specifically business. Okay, either way. The day that you post a podcast, if you just posted a picture and you can put a description, keep it simple. Simple, I would just try as simple as possible. My personal Facebook page, again, during Costas was another thing where, because again, everyone knows who that is. It was my biggest post. I don't post a lot on there. Pictures of my daughter. Yeah. Because I know family will see it or whatever. Yeah. But man, that blew up. I got a lot of people from that too. Totally. So I know. Keep it simple. I got to do better. Just keep it simple. The day you post it, post a picture. Do something everywhere. Yeah. Just keep it as simple as possible. Don't even worry about making it perfect or anything. Start with, even if you didn't, because I always like to make improvements. So you don't have to come out of the gate perfect, right? Even if you didn't have any copy or anything, just post the picture. Today I've got, you're right. Today I've got whoever, or you don't even say that and post it somewhere else. Keep it simple. Because it will definitely help. There's no doubt. But I think, not knowing and not being good at it, but if you start as simple as possible. Yeah, I know. Because you got good stuff, like leveraging free resources with big opportunity. That like for me, I'm all over it. I'm all over it. You have the business brain. I don't. You know what I mean? You have a business brain. Borrow it from me a little bit. I have a content brain, maybe. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I have a trouble. Yeah, merging the two. So what I just told you, does that seem like a reasonable thing to implement? Makes sense, and it is reasonable. And when I say it's malpractice to not do it, I know that. At least you recognize it too. Yeah, because if you start as simple as that, there is not one podcast that I listen to that doesn't cut up clips. Even the ones that are in audio ones too, because a lot of podcasts I listen to are audio. And then when they cut them up, where do they post them? Usually in the reel section or whatever the shorter clip section is of whatever given app. I think they call them different things on different. When we say reels, we know what that means, right? Yeah. I think that's usually where they go. Certainly on Instagram, that's basically a post to your profile now, right? It's just another tab. Yeah. And when you can connect your Instagram to your Facebook. So I have done that. You just post it on Instagram, boom, double platform. Yeah. Bingo bango. You're right. You're right. You're right. It's, I'll check in with you in a little bit. It's something I have to be better at because I have cost myself growth. For sure. Certainly. At this point, for sure, I'm proud of where I am, but I should be further. Well, and you could be further back. So
I like that mentality, but as long as you're making little improvements, like it's hard. Like I'm thinking how to keep that going. Consistency for you would be difficult. To me, like the only way to be consistency is really hard because with me, with pizza reviews, I build up a hopper. When I go and film, I film 12.
And I do that with interviews because I've realized now that like if you can do 5 interviews in a day, like do them because the next week you might not get anyone.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, because it's so hard to book now. There's a sports podcast that SI hosts, right? Sports Illustrated, Sports Media Podcast. The guy on there bitches every week about how hard it is. And I want to strangle him. I'm like, bro, you are the SI Sports Media. And this is a weird thing. People consider him a colleague. They don't consider me a colleague. I don't get that like professional courtesy that I thought I might after all this time. I'm still
because you're on your own.
Because I'm on my own, I guess. You know, I'm not, and no one's ever worked with me, right? Like, you know, I've never been anyone's actual colleague. You know, where this guy's been at Sports, so he's probably had people come in and out of shit like that, right? You know, media layoffs, and you work all these different places, but again, excuses. I just need to be better, but you've come a long way from. Yeah. And it's just because I wanted to. Yeah. Right. Like the only reason the show exists is because I say it does. And someday when the show doesn't exist, it'll be because I decided it doesn't exist anymore.
Shut her down.
You know,
what are you hoping to accomplish with it? What are some?
I don't know. I want to just keep going. You know, I last year I was questioning myself. Yeah. You know, I was wondering last year if it was going to be the last year for a little bit. Yeah. You know, and I had talked to my mom and my brothers, people in my inner circle, and said, I don't know. I might be done. You know, and they're like, well, why? And I was like, it's getting harder to book. You know, it's such a fight. Even people, another thing that has hurt me is I don't press people maybe the way I should. I become people's friend. You know, I have a lot of friends and it's easy for them to say, oh, I can't now, but I'll do it. Don't worry. And then they've said that 7 times in a row. And it's like, how did this guy become someone I'm only booking once a year? Right. You know, like they should be on 2 or 3 times a year. But I've become to a lot of people someone that's easy to say, I'll do it later. And I'm just, you know, I haven't, you know, I'm not as assertive maybe as I need to be sometimes as a booker. I can be relentless. I can hound someone. And I could be, I'm getting this person. But it's hard to do that with someone that's kind of like a friend. Even though I know they're not really my friends, right?
Yeah,
like
no, I feel you.
They're not the kind of friend that's going to come visit me in the hospital or anything. Yeah. Right? But they're the kind of friend that might post when I'm in the hospital and say, hey, think of this guy or something. Yeah. You know? Yeah. We can text during a game or whatever, right? But it's hard to push those people. You know, people become, you know, Dave Damashek was one of my mentors in the beginning. He said, you'll find out, you get your people, you got your core, and then you book around those people. And those people get you through when you can't get anyone. And I feel like I've built that core and a really good one, but they're getting harder to book because they're getting so many requests now. During the pandemic, 800,000 more podcasts were created in like 6 months.
No doubt.
You know, and I speak to a class. I went to ECC for 1 semester in between colleges. And I speak to one of the media classes there. I did it last. I'm going to do it this semester. And they're like, well, where do you start? And I'm like, well, I guess you got to just start, you know, and one thing you can't do is worry about the stats or whatever. No. And they're so conditioned to that. Like, how many likes did my post get? Yeah, how many comments did it get? You know, what's my score on Snap? Like, they're conditioned that way. And it's like, you will quit in a month because the first month you're going to have no one. 4 likes. Yeah. You need that first break to, you know, and then.
This is what I tell people when getting into content too. I'm like, the first thing is consistency. Yeah. I'm like, consistency will get you there. Like,
and then number 2 thing, authenticity. If you don't believe it, if people sniff out bullshit If they know you're not authentic and you are toast, you are
That's a good
dead
one.
in the water. I have to believe it. I know sometimes I will interview someone and I will feel I want to smack myself because I'm like, you mailed that in. You didn't give a shit. You had him on because you could.
Yeah.
It was an interview, whatever. You took it and you half-assed that. And then I can feel like, oh yeah, I'm doing this.
What makes you feel good about an interview after?
The number one thing, we'll use Artie Lang because this is a great example of this. Mm-hmm. So Artie Lang had a book out and he was doing probably 30 interviews in a row, 10, 15-minute blocks, one after another, right? And I got one of those blocks.
Nice.
And we start, and I'm in the middle somewhere, right? I'm not first, I'm not last. I'm somewhere in the middle of this run he's doing. And we start, and I can tell he's, eating some broccoli rabe or having a sandwich or something and is somewhere else.
Yeah, just going through it.
And then I got him. Something I said, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I could feel the energy change. I could feel his tone change. I could feel he went from this is bullshit to, oh, this is real.
This is a real one.
This is a real one.
Yeah, nice.
This guy read the book. This guy knows me. This is a real, and that's when I'm the happiest.
That's awesome.
The thing I loved about that Costas interview is, and he texted me. When we hung up, I set my alarm for 2 hours. I was going to text him in 2 hours to say thank you. He beat me.
He beat you.
He texted me first.
Why'd you want to wait 2 hours?
Because I didn't want to bum rush him. I wanted to give him a little bit of space. Plus, we did it right before he had dinner, so I know he was going to eat dinner.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, because he was on the West Coast. He's like, why don't we do it at 4 o'clock? I eat dinner at 5. He had said that. So I pushed him a little bit with time.
Yeah.
I always try, if someone says 20 minutes, I always try to get 30.
Yeah.
I'm always pushing the boundary a little bit.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give him some time. And he beat me to it. He said,
that's awesome.
What did he say? He said, thank you for having me on, Steve. I enjoyed it and appreciate all the preparation you put into it. Happy New Year, BC. So
that's amazing.
He recognized, because I went to Bob Costas University over Christmas break. I mean, he did a show called Later, which was like, it was on after David Letterman back in the day.
No shit.
There's 130 episodes of it on YouTube. I watched all 130.
No way.
I reread his book. I had a stack of articles that I printed. Playboy magazine article he did. They would do the long interviews. I buy Playboy for the articles, right? One of those articles, I had that, like anything I could find with his name on it. I went to the library one day.
Wow.
I went to the archives, got some articles. I read them. I just wanted to be prepared for anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was this one episode of Later where we had Mickey Mantle on, and Mickey Mantle's his guy, right? He did his eulogy.
No way.
Bob Costas did Mickey Mantle's eulogy.
That's unreal.
And that was his favorite player growing up. He grew up in New York. And
wow.
That's his guy. Mantle's his guy, right?
Wow.
So I'm watching the episode of Later he has with Mantle. And Mantle wants to, he says to Bob, like, I have a trip. You know everything about me, right? And Bob's like, well, kind of. He's like, all right, for my Rolex. He's like, who was the pitcher when I hit my 7th home run? Right. And Bob, he's like, what do you mean? Like your rookie year, 1951, the 7th home run yet? Yeah, my 7th home run. Who was the pitcher? And Bob thinks about it and whatever his baseball encyclopedia is spinning and he throws it in. It's wrong. Right. So Mantle's happy because he doesn't have to give up his Rolex. Right. So he's like, all right, the Rolex is off the table. He starts giving some hints and they get it and they talk about it. So one of the other shows he did was called, it was on HBO, and he would do this bit at the end called 9 and 90. And someone would come out, he didn't know who it was, and they would come out and they'd ask him 9 questions. He'd have 90 seconds to answer them. And they'd be these kind of like, who's the most famous person from Welland? These kind of questions, right? So when I booked him, I asked him, I said, if I do a 9 and 90, would you do it with me? And he's like, yeah, sure.
Sick.
So that was part of my preparation, is to write the 9 questions, right? The first one I asked him was, for my Rolex, who was the pitcher when Mickey Mantle hit his 7th home run? And he said the same thing he said to Mantle. He's like 1951, his rookie year? Who was the 7th pitcher? How the hell should I know?
That's hilarious.
And then I told him, I said, well, Mantle asked you this on later. He's like, he did? And it's some guy named Cantor, Russ Cantor, something like that. And when I told him, he's like, oh, Russ Cantor, that's right.
That's hilarious.
So I wanted something like that.
That's awesome.
I got that part of that interview because I watched 131 episodes later. My family would go to bed on Christmas week. Paula and Tammy go to bed, and I'd be up till 3, 4 in the morning watching episodes
Crushing later.
And I'm not trying to tell people right now that I do this for every interview. Yeah. Right. It was the perfect timing right before it ended last year. It was going to be the first one this year. Have the break. It's the biggest interview of my career in my mind, for calling this a career. Yeah. But it's those moments when you got someone came in and they're like, I'm just going to do this. Yeah. For whatever reason. Yeah. Usually it's because, they wrote a book and they figure out at some point, wow, he read that book. He's this, like I said, this is real. Yeah. And when I have those moments, that's when I'm like, that's right.
Nailed it.
You know what I mean? That's when I get a little fist pump and, call my brother and be like, no one else is doing this in their bedroom. Find me one person anywhere that's doing this in their spare bedroom,
That's amazing.
Flex a little bit. Only to my, I would never do that in public. It's my brother.
With your broski. Yeah.
Then I get back to being humble and get myself back in check. You are still in your bedroom,
I love it.
So.
I love it.
All right, we have
two
to
last
do a little
things.
bit. Okay, two.
Two last things. We're going to do the music. Rock, right? Yeah, okay. Canadian rock, and then this other one. The last guy I had on for a podcast works at Syracuse.
Yeah, I watched that one.
Did you?
Because I wanted to know what you do.
Yeah. Okay,
so I'm like, I know your reviews, obviously. Yeah, yeah. But I hadn't seen a podcast. So and I watched that one. And
you seen that, eh?
Yeah, it's sick.
So I don't know if you see.
He's a more academic, I think, than
he's media style.
Yeah.
So I've never been to a college football game for sure, but he was talking about, and I got to see where he's at, but he said that there's some basketball girl that's crushing it over there. But I want to go to
Iowa. Yeah. She and maybe Syracuse has someone, but right now, the Michael Jordan of women's college basketball plays for Iowa. They might play Syracuse.
Oh, maybe. I can't
remember. Maybe Syracuse has someone else in the country that's one of the top 5. I mean, the growth in women's sports in the last 10 years, I never saw it coming. WNBA still stinks for whatever reason, but I mean, women's hockey, they just started that new league.
Yeah, it's sick.
They're selling out buildings, doing great, and for someone with a 7-year-old daughter, great, Some of it's still not for me. Look, I watch women's hockey. It's just so slow. They're so slow. Yeah. You know what? I want nothing to be but the second best hockey league in the world, to the moon, but it's grown so much. And women's college basketball has really grown, and they have some great players playing it right now. Caitlin Clark is her name. Girl at Iowa.
Iowa. Interesting.
And then she lost last year to LSU, and LSU had a girl, I think graduated though, who was, also no, I'm the star kind of, and won the ship. But yeah, no, I like that guy. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was good. I want to go out there one time and catch something.
When I was there, Donovan McNabb was there.
No way.
He was the quarterback. Yeah, and Marvin Harrison.
Well, that's wild.
Yeah. So when I was there, McNabb was there, which was cool. They beat Miami, which was huge day there,
Solid.
But
Canadian rock.
Yeah. So I've been coming here, for years. And so I grew up with a dad who was in music, kind of. He did sound for a local band in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. And music is always part of my family. And I don't know how to play anything. I can't sing or anything like that. I'm just a listener. Mm-hmm. And people tell me this is off pitch, or I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I don't have a good year, except for I know I love rock and roll. Right. And I go from 1950, I can listen to some Elvis, as long as it's not country Elvis, some rock and roll Elvis, all the way to I can find something that came out this year that I like, Not as much anymore. Now I'm not like my dad who stopped buying albums in 1980, but I'm slowing down when finding the new stuff.
I feel you.
But you get so much you like. How do you have time? I've accumulated so much, whatever. But the first, Stevie Nicks was one of the first, and a band called Triumph, who are from Canada, Toronto. Rick Emmett is the singer. There's a huge music studio that the drummer now owns in, I think, Mississauga, one of the Toronto suburbs that I've been to a million times for hockey. Yeah, is where that is. And they had this song called Magic Power. And it was my favorite first song, right? It was like, it's about music. It's like the magic power is music, you know, Triumph? And you have, it's by Triumph. And they have these they're this really positive rock band. They have a song called Fight the Good Fight, you know, and they're positive. And nice. and Rick Emmett's a guitar god, like he rips, you know. And then I learned Rush. You know, I graduated from Triumph to Rush. Mm-hmm. And then I learned, and when I was 10 or 11, I found Pearl Jam, right? And what was interesting about them was they were mine. They weren't someone my dad told me to listen to. They weren't someone I loved because I listened in the passenger seat of the car, or my dad had the tape, or, you know, I wrecked the CD and got it smacked on the head for scratching the seat. It wasn't one of those. It was my thing. Right? Discovered them. And then when I turned 18, 19, 20, I found Canadian rock. There was a scene going on in Southern Ontario of the Tea Party, Our Lady Peace. Yeah. I mean, obviously the hip is sort of at the top of that, the Tragically Hip. Yeah. But they weren't really they were playing you got to go to the Canada Center to see them, right? Yeah. But in Buffalo, or we would go to Erie, Pennsylvania, and see the Tragically Hip in a theater. That's amazing. You know what I mean? Like, I've been 6 feet from Gord Downey. Got rest in peace to Gord Downey. Mm-hmm. You know, because it's Cleveland. That's amazing. And think if I was 100 miles north, I'd be in section 314. Nosebleeds. At the Air Canada Center with the binoculars or something, right? Yeah. But I went to probably because when you're 19 in the United States, and we were talking about this on the way here, we don't think people do it as much more, but we would come in every Friday and Saturday. Yeah, party. We tell the people at the border we're going to Clifton Hill to walk around at the Wax Museum. Where would you go to Rumors nightclub or whatever, or you know, whatever one it was, and you know, half the people there are from Buffalo. Yeah, half the people are from Welland and Thorold or what, you know, whatever. Yeah. Niagara Falls, Port Colborne, Niagara Falls, whatever. Yeah, because we could, you know, and again, I wasn't a drinker, but I was certainly. You were out on the scene. I was into play. I was excited to go hang out at the bar, and you know, we were talking about how the girls in Buffalo would go to the clubs in the middle of winter, and they wouldn't wear coats. They have heels this big, you know, going through the slush. You know, they have about 6 centimeters of their body covered with clothing. It's -14. Yeah. You know, everyone's nipples are out to here. You know, because they're damn cold. Cutting glass. Yeah, but we would go to Arizona's. Yeah, and that was my favorite. Patio, and the Tea Party would be playing there. Wasn't that sick? Headstones, I Mother Earth. Wow. There was this whole scene that, Our Lady Peace was, the Hip were my favorite, right? Yeah. But the Hip are part of this, but not. Yeah. You know, by 1998 was when Phantom Power came out with Poets. And I mean, they're the biggest rock band in the country then. Yeah. These are the roadside attraction days. They're playing 50,000 people at Molson Park and Barrie, you know. But I saw Pearl Jam at Molson Park and Barrie. It was 50. That was crazy too. That's awesome. But the other bands, you know, I've seen Our Lady Peace at the Phoenix in Toronto the night the Spiritual Machines came out. We won the tickets somehow in 97.7, and the first 7 songs they played were from the new album. And then Jeremy Taggart, who is the drummer, just starts playing the song Julia from the first album, and all of frickin' Phoenix, it just goes nuts. That's amazing. You know, and it's and then a couple weeks later, I'm at the Penn State Spring Fest to see Our Lady Peace, and I just walk up to the front. You know, and Jerry Taggart was on the Sportscasters too. No way. He has it's Taggart and Torrance. He's a famous podcast in Canada, and he was on, and we talked about Our Lady Peace, and because he's not in it anymore, the good old days or whatever. But man, what a time! That's so just wild. This whole Canadian rock and roll scene, all these bands. I didn't even know all those were Canadian. That's how bad I am. Big Wreck, Matthew Good band. I
yeah.
love Matt, and then Matthew Good once he. I
Yeah.
guess kicked the band out, and he was just Matthew Good.
Just on his own.
Same difference.
Yeah.
There's still a band up there, but whatever. Right?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to see the Matthew Good in April.
No way.
Somewhere in Hamilton.
Nice.
And
You're partly Canadian. You've been over here
I
so
grew
much.
up here.
Yeah.
I did. Like, you know.
You don't want to move over here? You said if you left New York, Canada's not on.
Well, not in the. There's no way I'm living in the country that the leader is Justin.
You don't even have to say
whatever
his
his
name.
name is.
You don't even have to
That's
say
never
it.
gonna
He's
happen.
only got another 2 years. And
Oh,
then he'll
thank
be
God,
out.
right?
Yeah, he'll be out.
Mr. Blackface.
Mr. A lot of things. Mr. A lot of
I
things.
feel for you. Taking the money of those poor truckers.
Oh man, so much
What a
bad.
bastard.
See,
But-
just on that,
Yeah.
I'm definitely more right than left, and
Okay.
I've had some politicians on that are right.
Okay.
And I tried to get on a liberal. I've only asked one so far, but didn't want to do it. I'm curious because I'm open to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Whatever your stuff.
And we need that. We
Yeah.
need discourse.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Like one of the right wing
I gotta try and
commenters
get
I like is Ben Shapiro. And there's a liberal one named Destiny. I don't really know him, but he's a liberal voice.
Interesting.
And they had like a 2-hour debate
Recently?
very recently.
I want to see it.
Yeah, you definitely need to see it. It's Destiny. Just, put in YouTube Destiny versus Shapiro.
Yeah.
And it was the most amazing piece of political commentary I've seen in 15 years because they took turns.
It was a
They
good
said,
conversation.
this is what I think. He said, this is what I think. They found out where they were met in the middle, where they didn't, what they agreed on most, what they didn't. And it's like, that's the only way we're going to be better. If
gotta have
everyone retreats into their corner, and I'm guilty of it too, creating my own echo chamber, where you're only,
I feel you.
You have to force yourself out. But for some reason, and there might be liberals out there who say, I'm wrong, but I feel like conservatives are more willing to come to that point.
Yeah.
And the liberals are like, we're not going to platform that person or
Maybe.
and maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe
they could tell me I'm wrong.
I feel the instinct of the same way, but I'm not sure because
I'm willing for someone to come and say you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm not naive enough to think I haven't created my own bubble.
Yeah, I feel
have.
you. Yeah.
And everyone has. And
Yeah.
if you can admit you've created it and you can force yourself out of it a little bit,
Yeah.
that's where we'll have change and the world will be better. But
I really, the best conversation. This has been a great conversation. by the way.
yeah.
But some of the best conversations I've ever had in my life is when somebody changes my opinion because I'm a
Sure.
stubborn person.
Yeah.
And if you can bring some things to light to me and have me change my stance or even reconsider, but if you can have me change my opinion, to me, that's a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I like talking with people that have different views and
Yeah.
opinions and beliefs on things.
There was a sports writer called Jeff Pearlman.
Mm-hmm.
He would come on sports commercials all the time. He knew I was a little bit conservative. Well, I'm a lot conservative, but
Mm-hmm.
he knew I was more conservative than liberal. He's very liberal, very
Mm-hmm.
open about it. We would have great conversations,
Mm-hmm.
but then it didn't survive the election, the last one.
No.
No, and again, he likes to poke the bear, but he doesn't like
Getting poked back.
getting poked back.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And it fell apart, but we had some great conversations. And 9 times out of 10, we always found a middle ground that we could say, okay,
Yeah.
okay, I get that. Or okay, fair enough, but man, that's a tough thing, but yeah.
Is Western New York more left or right?
Well,
I don't even know.
I think in the city,
Yeah.
like the city of Buffalo, it's Elmwood area. It's certainly pretty liberal, but so at the last presidential election, for example, the counties that make up Western New York, there's 8 or 9 of them. Only Erie County voted for Biden. Every other county was Trump.
Yeah.
And where I live in Niagara County in North Tonawanda is probably one of the most conservative areas of the state.
Interesting.
And then you could probably say that Elmwood Village is one of the most liberal areas in the state. So there's some of both.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
certainly where I live, I mean, I'm surrounded by don't tread on me flags and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's definitely very right, which, makes me comfortable. Other people, they wouldn't be comfortable there. They want to live in Elmwood Village, so be it.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I love this. I could talk. as you could see.
No, you're great.
Talking.
I think we will start to wind her down.
Yeah.
I have some.
People are probably sick of me by now.
Nah, I have some fun, just ending questions. But even before, we'll give acknowledgement to these books.
Yeah,
too.
you can give them away or keep them or whatever.
I'm definitely, for sure, I want to read them. I'm going on.
Yeah, I told you it's an Italian thing. You can't come empty-handed.
And you're
I
not going to leave
bring
empty-handed.
you the pepperoni, but I forgot.
All good.
So I thought, and I have stacks. I'm not going to pretend I bought these for you.
Yeah.
I get every day I go to the mail and someone's sending me another book.
That's amazing.
And I thought of you on this one because I know you have a business, and this is all about. This guy's on ESPN. College football mostly. You see Tim Tebow wrote the forward. That's probably the connection there.
And this is Marty Smith.
Yeah, I think he said 23 national championships combined of the coaches in here, talking about leadership and team making and the principles of it. And then this one I thought was fun because it's just a good old Canadian boy writing about, the small town hockey stories, and it's not just NHL stories. It's, hockey and these weird places in Canada. One of the things growing up and going to hockey tournaments in Canada, you go to a new rink for the first time and you be like, we're in someone's neighborhood. Like there's a rink here somewhere. And then you turn the corner and you run into the Zamboni, it's emptying out. It's like they have a 3-pad rink in this guy's yard,
That's hilarious.
They're in wild places, but,
do you read all the books that get sent to you?
If the guy's coming on,
yeah.
If I'm going to interview the guy, I read his book. Now I might not get 100% through, but I will not do one without getting. I feel like I owe it to them. They sent me the book. They're giving me the time.
Read it up.
And I know that most of the interviews they're going to do for this book, they didn't read it, so it gives me an edge.
Smart.
So yeah.
What was that thing you said with Bob Costas 9 and 90?
Yeah.
So
this is your version?
Yeah.
All right. I'm ready.
Ready?
Yep.
Let's hope you're never there. Death row. What would your final meal be?
Oh, it has to be. Well, okay. First of all, I need to know who's cooking it because my instinct is I want to say buffalo chicken wings, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't want them to call the Pizza Hut down from the jail.
Get to pick. It's death row.
Yeah, I would want Duff's. Now, Sheridan Road location is important with Duff's.
I just tried Duff's for the first time 2 days ago.
You went to Eastern Hills though, right? Transit?
Yes. Wrong one?
It's okay, but there's something about the original, right?
I went to the wrong one.
Which is on Sheridan.
Okay.
So I'd want, that, or some kind of pasta or something, but I'd probably pick the chicken wings.
Which flavor?
Oh, I like buffalo, buffalo sauce on the chicken wings.
Blue cheese?
I don't eat blue cheese. I just like to savor the, I love a good Frank's based.
Yeah. Frank's butter. Let's go.
A little bit of butter, maybe not too much. So I don't want it too mild, but Frank's a little bit of butter, maybe a little vinegar.
Yeah.
So
Duff's is your favorite wings?
Duff's has had something happen to them that happened to Anchor Bar first, where people have turned on it because it's too touristy. But I've been eating chicken wings there for 30 years. So to me, it's still number one. And I like but some of there's new places that are more trendy for Buffalo people. So they feel like they're not going where tourists go. Like that means something to them. 9/11. 9/11 is the one place I haven't been.
I haven't been
because
yet
it's
either.
so hard to get there. Because it's literally in South Buffalo, like in a neighborhood. It's really weird, and they're open weird hours. And the guy actually died recently.
Oh no!
So now it's the kids, and so now I heard the wings are still great, but
everybody talks them up to me.
I have to go there. It's like the one place in all of Buffalo I've never been.
Maybe I'll let you know.
Maybe
when I
we
go.
should do it. Yeah,
we'll
do a
line that
9/11. Yeah, I've been to Barville. I've been to everywhere. All the pizzerias. Pizzeria wings are almost a different category, But I like to have the medium or the hot. I can't quite do hot at Duff's. I used to be able to, but my stomach issues. I'm down to like a medium.
Yeah.
But that's really like a hot anywhere else.
So is that all you would have on the death row meal? Is just the wings?
Yeah, give me 20 of them.
20?
If I get the fries from there too. I love their fries.
That's it. Bro, my death row meal would fill this table.
Well, all right. I mean, but then if I say like, also bring me like linguine with clams, and also bring me like, like is that still a meal? Like
I don't know.
I'm thinking traditional, like, okay, I'm sitting down one setting, I'm eating a meal.
Fair enough.
Okay.
And to drink with it, what would you wash it down with?
Well, if I'm getting the wings, I want some Pepsi.
Yeah.
I grew up on Pepsi. My dad worked there.
A dessert at the end, or would you shut her down?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, that's cannoli.
Cannoli.
Yeah, tiramisu or cannoli and so.
I love it.
Yeah.
What do you like on your pizza?
Pepperoni.
That's it?
Yeah.
Cup and char?
Yeah. Now I could get talked into like a banana pepper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every once in a while, I'll go to Just Pizza. They have a 3 cheese steak with the hot peppers. I can do that once in a while. But again, like I'm a Buffalo kid. I like to eat Buffalo cheese and pepperoni pizza with Buffalo wings. You know, that's what I grew up on. That's where my heart is. I grew up in a neighborhood called Lovejoy, and we had 3 pizzerias. We had Carbone's, we had Lovejoy Pizza, and we had Pizza Queen, which sadly doesn't exist anymore. And I can still tell you 895-8338. Like I still, and my dad liked Lovejoy.
Yeah.
So it was a race on pizza nights to who's going to order it.
Yeah. Eh?
And if he ordered it, I was pissed because it was Lovejoy. And if he ordered it, he was pissed because it was Pizza Queen. But
how do you feel about the wings that they do? I think they deep fry them and then put them on the grill.
Barbecue, I could eat like that.
Yeah.
But I'd probably rather not eat a Buffalo style like that.
Gotcha.
If I'm going to eat barbecue, I'd prefer them that way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, this is fun. We talked about this, but favorite kind of music or era of music?
So and there's a guy named Eddie Trunk who explains this perfectly, but I'm a one genre guy. I love rock and roll. I can listen to, like I said, 1950 to current. You know, I like hair metal. I grew up on grunge, obviously. Yeah. You know, I like all different kinds of rock music. I've seen just about everybody. You know, I've seen Nirvana. I've seen Pearl Jam. I've seen Soundgarden. I've seen everyone from my era. Almost everyone from my dad's era. I saw Page and Plant in 95 at the Odd.
It's amazing.
I've seen Bob Seger. You know,
Do you keep all the ticket stubs?
I used to.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Now you don't get ticket stubs.
Yeah, true that.
I have most of my Pearl Jam ones. I have a little scrapbook for the first couple tours, but I've never went back and finished it. But yeah, I'm a rock guy. I
got this one's more deep. Meaning of life.
Well, for me,
and you've had some close calls.
Yeah. And every time, I guess I'm going to give you another, family's the meaning of life. Family is everything.
Nice. I like that.
Family first. Everything, all that matters, you will learn in my position, right? Real quickly how tight your circle is in reality.
Isn't it? It's a little bit, I don't know what the right word is here, but when you get the opportunity to see who is the real.
Yes. And it's always family. And I got a couple good friends, and don't do me wrong. They didn't do anything wrong.
No, I feel you.
And somehow this has become a conservative value, right? There's people who are now saying that this is some sort of form of white supremacy. But to me, it's just ridiculous. But to me, and I was raised this way, family first. Family is everything.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You know, my number one priority in life, first is the 2 people in my house. Mm-hmm. Then both of my parents are still alive, my mother and my father.
Nice.
Nothing has been more important to me for longer than being an older brother. So there's that. Mm-hmm. You know, I have one grandparent left. Her.
That's awesome.
And then, you know, my aunts and uncles, and you go out, your cousins, whatever. Yeah. But, you know, if you said to me you can only have 75 people at your wedding, it's going to be 75. I'm going to fill those spots in with family we had a big wedding, so we have plenty, not family there, but.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel you. I like that answer.
That's the meaning of life.
I like that.
Have a family. You know, like that. These people, I feel so sad for these 2 income, no kids people. You know, they're sad deep down. I don't buy that for a second. You know, they're sad. Those relationships are sad. Those lives are sad. And they're going to be sitting around 10, 15 years ago with nobody that cares about them.
Where's the family?
Saying, shit. What now? Family? They better have some good nieces and nephews or something, right?
No doubt.
Because
it's all about family.
It is. Family first.
If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Well, I'm mostly a domestic traveler. I don't really like to go to other countries. Now, Canada is different because it doesn't feel like another country.
Yeah, we're based.
Right? Or it's all in you know, we will go to Italy. My daughter is really into going to Italy. So I will have to get a passport. I've never had one.
How'd you get here?
Well, I have an enhanced ID.
Oh, and that works.
Yeah, that's all you need. And I didn't even have that for years when it was required. But Canada really doesn't care, and they have to take me back in the U.S. So I usually ignored that stuff. They don't care. They let you in and out. But anyway, Italy. And then, but most of my traveling is for things. Like, I want to go to a Saints game. I go to one every couple of years. I go to New Orleans, go to a Saints game.
Nice.
I want to go when should be a Pearl Jam year this year. I'm going to go to 4 or 5 shows. I'm going to travel for that, So mostly I let my passions guide my travel.
I like it.
But me and my daughter, she wants to go. She wants to see where Nona's from, She wants to go. One. So we're going to have to go.
That'll be a good one.
Start with Rome. Go to Rome. Our village is 2.5 hours from there. So we go spend a day doing that. She's so into the Colosseum and,
That'll be a good one.
Yeah. Maybe go to a Juve game up in Turin. We'll see.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Best piece of advice you can give anyone?
Be yourself. Be authentic. Be true to yourself.
People have a hard time with that, eh?
And the number one decision in your life is who you choose to spend it with. Right?
Thank you for spending this time with me.
Yes. And in a micro and a macro sense. But when my wife and I were dating, my grandfather, he was still alive. And we went to their house. They were going to Florida. They would go down to Florida and we went to and I got there and he was in the garage. They had a garage you could open on both sides. So it was winter, but he was grilling. He had, just had the one side of the garage open and he's making ribs in there. And he's like, he called me Stevie. Stevie, come here, come here. I go see him. He's like talking to me. We're talking about Sopranos.
Love it.
I was still pissed at the Sopranos because I told him, I said, the last season's coming. It's in 2006. And he said, I hope I'm alive still. And I was like, you'll be alive. He wasn't. Fucking David Chase couldn't get his shit together at the time.
Are you okay with the ending?
Yes, I love the ending.
Me too. There's people that hated it. I do not want to
see freaking Tony Soprano executed in front of his whole family. That is not how I wanted it to end. And that did not happen to me. There's a theory I love that the jukebox, when he plays Don't Stop Believin', the B-side is Any Way You Want It. And that David Chase was saying to us, the ending is Any Way You Want It. I love that. Or
that's a good one.
That we got whacked.
Yeah.
The audience got whacked.
Could be. I was good with it. Sopranos is one of my favorite shows.
I think it's the best show of all time.
It's definitely, yes.
It's that or The Wire. And to me, again, probably the Italianness, how I can relate to the people. I mean, none of my family's in the mafia, but
that you want to talk
what they're
about.
Eating, what they're talking, I can relate to that was my childhood, right? So maybe that gives it an edge, but
it's a great
brilliant.
show.
It's brilliant. And I watch it all the time. I've never not watching The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I might just watch an episode. Like, I'm not saying I watch it every day.
Yeah.
But, I have Max.
It's in the rotation.
And sometimes I think it's something I'm like, I want to watch that episode. Or every once in a while I'm like, I'll plow through a season or whatever. Like it's, I'm really into television dramas, TV. I like TV a lot. Mm-hmm. My number one love is the A-Team, but that's a different story. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's like, that was my first love, like it's different.
Right.
But, the Sopranos is number one. Wire's probably number two.
Great shows.
I'm a little lower on Breaking Bad than people. One, because I like Saul better, kind of. And Breaking Bad to me sort of is an action more than a drama. And action's fine, but
yeah, Breaking Bad was solid too.
I love Breaking Bad. I'm just a little lower than people.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, I have no fucking idea what they're talking about.
I haven't seen it.
It's over my head. Yeah. I thought it was smart till I watched that show. I'm not. Then
maybe that's why I have trouble with
the last season, this one episode, it's in the dark. I didn't see anything the whole hour. And then people online are like, you got to adjust your brightness. I'm like, I have a $3,000 TV. I'm not adjusting the brightness. Shoot it in the light.
Is that what happened in one of the episodes?
Stupid show.
Forget that one.
Anyway, did I answer the question? What was it?
Yeah, best piece of advice. Yeah, authentic. That was good.
And the partner, like you said, I'm here with you, and that's part of it too. But like, who you choose to live, like the and sick. Like, I know I've tested at sickness and health, right? Mm-hmm. And my grandfather, the end of that story was he told me that day, he's like, don't fuck that up. I know you.
It's good advice.
Don't fuck that up.
Yeah, that's good advice.
He's like that. Trust me. Trust me, I know she's not Italian.
It's fine.
I know, but that was hard for everybody.
Polish is a good second.
Polish is fine. It's European still, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But he told me, and I listened to him, and I've seen my parents struggle. They got married because of me. Mm-hmm. They were kids, and it didn't work. And I saw my mom go through hell a second time. I always thought, like, I'm never gonna get married. Like, look at how hard I see all these divorces. But my wife, she grew up. Her parents are married. Her grandparents died married.
Nice.
She grew up in a different world, and she said, "No, it's not like that.
Nice.
Trust me." And I did, and
it's awesome.
I don't want to be crude. I don't, but I'm going to say this anyway.
Yeah.
When you have an ileostomy, you have a bag on your stomach. Right? I had it like right here.
Yeah.
And it's literally at all times, essentially, full of shit. And you have a partner who is still willing to sleep with you in that moment.
She's a keeper.
Because most people will be like, when you get that taken care of, come back to me, right? But
yeah. That's a good girl right there.
maybe that's crude, but I don't know.
No, it's not crude. That's
But I'm
legit.
just trying to make a point. Like,
No,
that's
it's legit.
That's the most important decision of your life.
That is legit.
Yeah.
That is legit. I think I know what you're going to say here, but so who played a big role in who you are today?
Yeah, my mother, my father, my brothers. Being an older brother was so important to me. And then, of course, my grandparents, especially my grandma Paula and my grandma Xenia, because I lived with them at different stretches.
It's awesome.
When my parents did get divorced when I was 3, we went and lived with my grandma Paula for a little while. And I feel bad sometimes. My grandma Marie, the one that's still alive, who's been amazing and is certainly still on the list. But, there's something different. And probably because they died too. But number one, my mom.
Yeah. It's awesome.
What did you do without a mom? I've seen something like if you get the phone and it says mom, still you got to answer those calls, right?
Every time.
Because someday we're not going to have it. If everything works out the way it's supposed to, it's supposed to work out that she's gone first, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm glad you recognize that because some people, when they go through it's the right order.
And me and my brothers joke because she's questions. She always ask questions, right? So when we're together, like when it's the 3 of us, we've had times where we put $10 in each, and the winner is who gets called first.
Yeah.
We're just fucking around, but the rule is always you get the money, but you can't answer. And then we because we mess with her, she called me, right? And so I won the $30, but also I'm sending her the voicemail. And then 16 seconds later, she's calling, right? And so we would never answer till the third call. We would every time messing with her. And my brother Anthony, he is the youngest, and he's the one who played it out and everything. He's still single, and I think it's because he's afraid. She's crazy. She's a crazy Italian. If he even brushes elbows with a girl, she's Googling, check her social media,
That's hilarious.
She's intense for him. For me, she never cared for whatever reason.
Interesting.
But
she wasn't
because she was always worried about the baby, right?
Yeah. Italians
love the babies.
Yeah.
And he's 11 years younger. Everyone loved him the most, but including myself. But
that's hilarious.
It's those people.
2 more.
Okay.
What do you want to be remembered for?
That I was a good dad and a good husband.
It's a good one.
Number 1, I want to be a good dad. I've had failures. I've failed things. I will not fail at that.
I like that.
And the husband too. It's just as important because I've seen in my own life, I've seen people fail at that. So to me, I have to be, if I can be remembered as those 2 things and a good son, I want to be a good son.
Yeah.
But
that's solid.
And all this stuff is great too. I'd be happy if people say at my funeral, he had a great sports podcast and he had Bob Costas and he had the lady at the border saying, why are you so important? On our honeymoon, I took a listener to dinner.
Really?
Okay? So we went to Vegas and LA on our honeymoon.
Nice.
And one of my super fans, Ford Kendrick, good kid. He lived in Vegas. He was at UNLV studying in Vegas. And I told him, I said, he had, emailing sort of before, I said, I'm coming to Vegas for my honeymoon. I said, what? You come down to the hotel. We stay at the Venetian, an Italian hotel there.
Nice.
Come to the Venetian. There's a great Italian, So it was so funny because he was nervous to meet me.
That's awesome.
He asked for a picture. But it was
Awesome.
clout. It was, it was. I was like, see who you married? See this? I got fans.
This is legit.
Yeah.
Is that at the border today? She said that to you?
She said, who the hell are you? Like, why are you so important to me? Why does someone want to interview you? I think she was making sure, like, was I somebody?
What'd you say to her?
Well, I said, I have a podcast about sports. I asked her maybe if she knew you. I said, do you know Pizza Joe? He does pizza reviews in Canada. But no, they're not she was nice, but they're still, all business,
Yeah. Interesting.
And she said, okay, pizza and sports. That makes sense. And she said, go ahead, bud.
That's funny.
Yeah. That's nice too. But man, imagine if you die and people are like, he was a shitty dad and shitty. Like,
no, you don't want that. Don't want that.
It's ugly.
Last one.
Yeah.
If you won $1 billion, billion, what would you do?
Well, first thing I would do is I would acquire a little bit of real estate.
Nice.
I want
Canadian side, you call me.
I want a place in New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
Like the number one thing I'm doing is buying Saints season tickets. Like I am now a Saints season ticket holder, and I'm never missing a Saints game in the Superdome the rest of my life. So I need somewhere to live during that time.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, take care of my mom. What does she need? I want to take care of people, take care of my family. Like I will definitely be generous. Me and my brothers always say like about me, when I'm flush, I'm flush. You know what I mean? When I won a fantasy league last year, maybe won like 2,700. I just Venmoed my brothers like 300 each.
Oh yeah,
I just wanted them to be in the win. Like,
wow, you're good people.
Like, we all won.
You're good.
Like I want to bring people with me because I don't want to be lonely, and I don't want to be like Howard Stern, who's been locked in his basement since COVID started. Alone with his money. Yeah. I want to bring people with me.
So good. I
want my people there.
I like it.
My brother works for a billionaire, who has a private ice rink at his house in Jersey, in a really affluent part of Jersey. Mm-hmm. And there's all these reasons why he built it, but basically for his sons, so his sons could be better hockey players. Mm-hmm. And my brother lives on the property with a bunch of 16-year-old hockey players, and he coaches them privately, and then also their travel team. Wow. So I would absolutely also, if I won the $1 billion, I would probably fly right to Jersey and go to Anthony and say, all right, let's call Larry and ask Larry, what the fuck do I do now? Because, he knows how to be a billionaire. I don't know how. So I would have to.
How do we make this work?
Larry. Yeah. On Team Steve, like.
Don't lose it all.
What do I do?
That's awesome.
So yeah, but definitely I'm never missing a Pearl Jam concert again. I'm going to every show they play the rest of my life, the rest of the band's history.
I like it.
I really want to get to 100. And like it's slowed down the last few years. They don't play as much.
What are you at again?
86. So like I really want to get to 90 this year. We went to Disney. We landed. And I turned to my wife and said, all right, it's Pearl Jam time. I had 3 shows in the next 15 days. That was March 1st, 2020. They canceled. They got canceled. Eh? It's like, so it's going to grind. There's not as many shows. It's harder. I don't have as much. Like, I would, like in 2003, 2006, I would work hockey schools. I worked 3 or 4 weeks traveling hockey school. I would bust my ass for 3 weeks and make like $1,700, $1,800, whatever I could hoard as much of it as I can, like eating bologna in the hotel. Right. Never the other guys, they would waste so much money drinking, but I didn't drink. So I'd have that. And then as soon as it was done, I'd go spend all $1,700 on Pearl Jam shows.
Really?
And this is what I would do all summer. You know, I would work for 5 shows, work for 3 shows.
Work for PJ.
And then school would come and my mom would be like, how much money do you have saved for school? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, you've been working all summer. Do you have money saved for school, for your books or whatever? I'm like, oh, no, I spent it all on Pearl Jam. So, I mean, I'd never miss another show. And I mean, look, if you're a billionaire, you get to that level, you do whatever the fuck you want, right?
Basically.
Never
That's
fly
what I mean.
a commercial again.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
But I don't want to plane us lease. Like even my brother's boss, he just leases.
Yeah.
It's easier. He has a pilot, but not a plane.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and he's
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah. A lot of work, a lot of money.
yeah.
This was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
I don't even think, and I missed the opportunity in the beginning where they can listen.
Oh yeah. Well, you can follow me on Twitter at fuck up the plugs, right?
It's all good.
At sports_casters on Twitter, sportscasters on Instagram. The RSS feed is hosted on SoundCloud, right? So soundcloud.com/sports-casters, but it's also on Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, you know, Google Podcasts.
It's everywhere.
I put out this link on my Twitter every time I post a show from this website called Podfollow.
Mm-hmm.
And if you click on that link, it will take you on your phone to your podcast app. So
That's convenient.
So if you have Android, so like the first few years, I was just posting the Apple Music link or the Apple Podcast link. But that's no good to half your audience, right? If half people are iPhone, half aren't. The green bubbles versus the blue bubbles.
Yeah.
I found Podfollow, which is a great resource. And so if you have a smartphone and you go to Podfollow and you search Sportscasters, or you find my link on Twitter, it will open. If I did it on my phone, it would open Apple Podcasts.
That's pretty
You
sweet.
did it on your phone, it's set to open to Google or Spotify.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so you could do that. But yeah, just follow me on Twitter, I guess. Let's get all the links there. But I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. And my family thanks you because I just spent 2 hours talking. So I have a chance I might be quiet for the next
Shut her down.
12
Bro,
hours.
this was amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
This was awesome. I'm looking forward to.
I hope I wasn't too host-y. Because, you know, I am a host.
You were fantastic.
Okay.
Great conversation. I don't know. I did get to be a little bit more in cruise control, but you take the conversation in great direction as I enjoyed it a lot.
Good. Thank you. And now we got pizza.
Yes.
Next time you come. I
Pizza
know I'm
or
not
wings
as
or
pretty as
9/11?
the Buffalo food slut. I get it. But come on.
Do you want to do a review one time?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do a review. Where will we do it?
We'll have to see where you've done it.
Yeah, I know. I'm covering
Probably
some
should
ground.
bring you an NT, right? Do an NT place.
I've done a bunch, but if there
Have
isn't
you?
any, we'll find it.
We'll find one. There's
Yeah.
plenty of places to eat pizza in Buffalo.
400 plus. Yeah.
Or maybe we just go to one neither of us have had. Maybe I'll just pick one out that I haven't had. Like actually go in there and be like, let's see if this is good or
what
not.
it's about.
You know,
Yeah.
find something newer. That we could.
Pizza review for sure. And if one of us somehow makes 9/11 work or not,
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
All right, brother.
This
Thank
was
you.
awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
North America for life.